Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of absolutely awesome and entertaining racing action in the SimRacing International Thursday GT3 Championship Season 12 as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. That's right folks, we're back once again for round number 6 of the championship, and with there being no mid-season break, we immediately launch our way into the second half of the season, and where better place to go to than return to Belgium for everybody's second favourite Belgian circuit is indeed none other than Circuit Zolder. Last time we visited the country, much earlier in the season, we were at the venerable Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, a neighbour to the Zolder circuit, but arguably this circuit has been overshadowed by its neighbour, and unfairly so. Given the fact that over the course of its 2.49 mile length, this is going to be a circuit that's definitely going to test the consistency of drivers, as well as the ability to deliver the golden lap in qualifying. Some would say this is going to feel very similar to Brands Hatch, our venue from last round, and you can easily understand why. A circuit that offers 10 corners, a very tight, narrow racing surface, and what it means when it's all added together, overtaking around here is not impossible, but it is definitely difficult, and it's going to require you to be brave on the brakes. However, the test of consistency is going to be amplified here, because at Brands Hatch in the United Kingdom, it's all about making sure you don't run wide at any given corner and carry all the speed. Around here, you need to be perfect on the brakes, because the number of chicanes around this circuit is absolutely tantamount to madness. A grand total of 4 chicanes at the circuit. This course, of course, with its 4 chicanes, offering up opportunities for drivers to get it absolutely right and fly the way through them, or return to hit the curbs high and indeed take flight going up into the air. When they come back down to terra firma, they'll see the suspensions absolutely shattered. So for our GT3 drivers today, it's all going to be about to be as smart as possible under braking, making sure you nail those lines, and when you get ready to go batting, remembering the fact that a tighter entry line means that you're going to have a much tighter exit. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side. As you tune tonight, and the only place you can catch all the racing action on a weekly basis from SimRacing International Series, including our Thursday GT3 Championship, and of course at youtube.com and search for SimRacing International SRI, and you can be joining the likes of many tuning in, including none other than Arno Prague, we say hello to there, who would be normally on the grid for the Superstar split, which you're tuning into via this broadcast, but unfortunately not on the grid tonight. And Arno, I hope you're doing well, and we look forward to seeing you back in a week's time. Indeed, this is your Superstar split, one of 2 splits that's been broadcast live from Circuit Side Parallel tonight. Of course, you do have the Masters broadcast as well, and that'll be in the very capable hands of none other than Chaz Draycott and Darragh Thacker. Meanwhile, if you do stay with us here at Superstars, and we always encourage you to do so, or you can have both on at the same time if you're daring able to multitask, we have myself. My name is Paul Walsh, and I'll be bringing you all your race action over the entirety of the season of Superstars as we continue the story live from Circuit Side today. And well, as we make our way into the second half of the season, we have had 5 rounds of absolutely entertaining, exciting action so far, and what better way to bring you back up to speed for round number 6 than giving you a recap of the story so far, and particularly what happened last time out in round number 5. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's go through the recap. And so we begin by reflecting on our calendar for this season. Today is the 7th of May. It is round number 6 on the calendar. Circuit Zolder awaits. Sunny skies with a little bit of cloud awaits as well. And it's a 1-hour race regardless of Masters or Superstars. However, last time out, we were in the United Kingdom on the 30th of April at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. In commemoration, of course, of the GT World Change Sprint Series season opener in Europe. And well, with the coincidental timing of our visit to Brands Hatch to the visiting of real-life GT3 machinery to the circuit, what exactly did we get to see there last time out? Well, given the very narrow nature of the British circuit, we got to see one of the cleanest races we have seen so far this season, with absolutely thrilling racing all the way through. But before we even got to the racing, in qualifying, it was tremendously tight. We would expect it, of course, given the short nature of the circuit and how quick it is, and we did see first through to 20th overall, separated by only 9.5 tenths of a second, not even a whole second separating them all, and we got to see that tightness continue all the way through the field, but the top 20 spots definitely were very closely contested. However, when we did go racing, we saw an open lap which was absolutely brilliant. Side by side, 2 free wides all the way up into Druids Bend, and they continued all the way through to the back end of the opening lap. Now, that's not to say there were some major incidents, because we did see a few out there, including what was Adam Lynch's spin from the club lead on the open lap at turn number 4. Also, Elliot Court's demise, his instant on lap number 11, and we also got to see a big spin for Martin Kenyon on lap number 3 at turn number 2, but the racing was very respectful and clean throughout. And we have to give a special mention to the absolutely brilliant battles we got to see at Brands Hatch, which was the battle for third place in pro and overall between Richard Simler and Ben Woodgate on lap number 32, two, just after they both came out the pit lane, where it all went side by side between the pair for practically the entirety of a lap. It only fell apart when they made the way into Westfield Bend at turn number 6, and Woodgate, being on the outside, went wide onto the gravel, and Simler was able to confirm the position and bring home that rather valiant third place in Pro. However, strategy was very important last time out, whereby those who offered themselves the undercut, were they able to find clear track when they came out of the pit lane, they gained massively, and that was one of the key things for Richard Simler in particular, as well as others. By pitting a little bit earlier, they gained the race time that was needed. But as we come into this round, well, who exactly were the winners last time out, many of you will be wondering? Well, firstly, Pro and overall, we got to see an absolutely dominant display from Brandon Dyer, who took pole position by just shy of a 10th ahead of Milton Tomlinson-Dennis. But whereas Milton Tomlinson-Dennis struggled over the distance, whereby his Lamborghini's tyres seemed to give way and his pace completely slipped off the chart, meanwhile for Brandon Dyer, he only got faster and faster. Many in the end were saying to him, why can't you slow down, Brandon? And well, he was absolutely loving it at the Brands Hatch circuit, no doubt about it. And whilst gapping the field, he was able to bring home his first win of the season by 10.6 seconds. Meanwhile, in the Interclass, well, if it was Brandon Dyer who dominated in Pro, it would then be Jared Love who led the way in Inter. He took pole position by what was almost half a second ahead of Sam Hockley, who surprised himself with a brilliant second place finish. But to be fair, for Jared Love, he surprised himself with an absolute monster qualifying lap for the class pole position, and then taking 6th place on the overall grid. And in his post-round interview, he expected to be the quickest in Inter, but not that quick. Still, when we did go racing, we saw the DDK racing with RaceStatBot.com drive prioritise first and foremost giving up overall positions to the pros and really focusing on making sure he took the Inter win. And we're able to bring home his third win of the season by 10.4 seconds. And whilst he did have a mid-race spin, which we didn't catch on camera on lap number 29, well, still, he was able to make sure he had plenty of gap, so that way the spin did not sacrifice his chances of a win. But if it was straightforward for Brandon Dyer and also Jared Love, was it straightforward in the club class? The answer is no. We got to see our 5th class winner in 5 rounds. We have yet to have a repeat winner in the club class, and this time out, Eddie Fearbold, who took 3rd place in qualifying by half a second off of Adam Lynch's pole time, but it was only 900ths off of 2nd place starter Jordan Butler. Now, this was critical, because at the start of the race, we did see him get the jump on Jordan Butler for 2nd, and it became the lead when Adam Lynch had his spin on the open lap. And after that, well, we got to see Butler and Fearbold battle very hard throughout the entirety of the opening stint, and Fearbold held onto lead with a gap that never increased beyond 7/10 of a second. So what was the difference then, I hear you ask? Well, Butler pitted first on lap 23, and he took a full set of tyres. Meanwhile, Fearbold opted not to do so, and in going in on lap number 29, the undercut did not work out for Butler, who in the end had to start fighting his way through club rows who had pitted but not taken the tyres, and it meant that for Fearbold, it was a straightforward run to the finish in the end. He got it done on strategy, and also on track right at the start with that critical overtake. So a new winner in club, repeat winner in Inter, and a new winner in the Pro class as well. But will we see new winners today in all of our classes here at Circuit Zolder, or will we see repeat winners? Well, that's what we're here to find out. Remember, next time out, we're making our way back to Japan for the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit. But that's in the future. Let's stay in the present and bring up speed with the standings coming into this round. And here we can see in the Pro Drivers' Championship standings, Milton Tomlinson-Dennis, he still leads. From 2nd down to 10th was the story of his day at Brands Hatch. Qualified in 2nd place, and it's very quick, but all the pace seemed to be over a limited portion of time, and struggling towards the very end of the race, he slipped to 10th place. There's no damage to the car from what we could understand, but the pace just was not there, and therefore he's got to try and find that form that he's had in the opening 3 rounds, because right now that form seems to have walked away from him, and well, he doesn't want to walk away from his chances of bringing home that important championship crown. But you won't be seeing Milton Tomlinson-Dennis on the grid today. Don't worry, all's okay with him, but he is taking this round off because I do believe his missus, his wife, has had an operation last week, and so he's looking after her while she recovers. But the good news is she's on a smooth path to recovery from what we understand. And well, Mrs. Tomlinson-Dennis, if you are listening right now, we wish you all the best here at SimRacing International. I'm sure it's all going to be a smooth recovery, and of course we do look forward to seeing Milton back on the grid, hopefully in a week's time. And we definitely miss seeing him on the grid as a Samantha Tam Racing driver. Definitely has been a superstar so far this season. But as he slips down in terms of number of points he accrues, we see Nils Bauckhage sitting in 2nd on 298 points. His story was a 4th place finish, but in terms of how he got to that 4th place finish, well, it was a very challenging one, no doubt about it, given he started in 8th place and had to fight his way forward. But fought well he did, and in the end was able to get to 5th and took the 4th place when Ben Woodgate had his late off towards the very end of the race. But behind the NJB performance strike, it's in Richard Simler, his 2nd podium of the season, that 3rd place finish, and arguably he would feel one of his best performances, perhaps even outdoing that 2nd place in round number 3, because simply put, in qualifying, his target was to beat Leon Seeley, a fellow Corvette driver. He matched him and started on the 2nd row alongside him, and well, Simler has been using Seeley as his pace marker all season. He was very proud of that, and when he did go for the undercut versus Brandon Dyer, it brought the two, not versus Brandon Dyer, versus Ben Woodgate, it brought the two side by side coming out of the the pit lane when Woodgate pitted, and all the rest was history of that brilliant side-by-side battle all the way to lap 32, turn 6, where we got to see Woodgate in the end make that small mistake, and it granted Simler the right to finish on the podium. Brandon Dyer, first win of the season, now moves into fourth on 280 points, only 10 behind the third place man, but in turn only 8 points ahead of Ben Woodgate. And the Inter-Racing team driver right now knows he's slipping away from the top 5, albeit he's still in there at the moment, but he does have Raz Harper not too far behind, and therefore you can understand Woodgate wants to get a bit closer to Dyer today for Altitude Frame Esports, rather than fall into the clutches of the DDK Racing team driver. Now Raz Harper's day was definitely one whereby it was a bit of a middling day. He finished inside the top 10, but wanted a bit more. Leon Seeley, meanwhile, made it back-to-back second place finishes for Samantha Racing. He's now 6 points behind the top 6. He started to move forward gradually, and indeed it seems though as the performances of Milton Tomlinson-Dennis start to decline, Leon Seeley is starting to rise. Now that's not necessarily true, it may just be a coincidence, but that's the way we're seeing things go for the Samantha Racing pair at the moment. And for Leon Seeley, can he finally take that first win today? He's looking exceptionally quick in the practice session just before we came into qualifying, and with it this broadcast. Charlie Walker sits in 8th place, and the relentless racing driver right now really earmarking the split from the top 7 to the rest of the field by a tune of 54 points. He's ahead of Elliot Court by the best part of 8 points there, with the DDK Racing team driver having to retire from the race at Brands Hatch due to a major incident earlier on. Joris Peters team sits in 10th place at 150 points, equal points to Daniel Page, but ahead based on result count, back with his best result being an 8th place finish to the 9th place finishes of Daniel Page, and behind the Daniel Newman racing red driver, it's Leighton Austin who completes your pro top 12. But what a day he had, battling with his teammates, battling with everybody, did Leighton Austin. We absolutely love to see it. Meanwhile, in the interclass, here we can see Jared Love with his third win on the board, 380 points versus Bobby Moss on 306. Now, of course, we've told you the story of Jared Love. We haven't told you the story of Bobby Moss, and what a difficult day it was for him. Qualified third in class, but he had to start from the pit lane due to a technical issue of the car, and the SimRacing collector in the end fought his way up to a 6th place finish. But you can imagine if he had started where he was meant to start, could he have gone for the podium? Could he have even gone for the win? Well, we'll never quite know. But what we do know is that unfortunately we won't be seeing Villa Katonen and the Beowulf Racing team teammate of Nicholas Carlson on the grid for the remainder of the season. Indeed, both drivers unfortunately will be retiring from this season. That's not in bad news, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be fully transparent about it in the fact that because Villa Katonen was recently involved in a motorcycle accident just before the Brands Hatch round, and he is currently out of racing because he has broken his thigh and his ankle, and we wish him all the best on his road to recovery. And in solidarity, Nicholas Carlson in fact could not make this season originally, but because Villa was racing, he rearranged all his personal schedule to be able to go racing in the end. Because Villa is not on the grid, Nicholas Carlson in solidarity has withdrawn as well, and we look forward to seeing them both return in a future season. But Villa, if you are listening in today, we hope you recover smoothly and that you're on the path to victory again with regards to your health at least and your motorcycle in the near future. And of course to both you and also Nicholas, if you're listening as well, we look forward to the day you're both back on the grid, because definitely it is a weaker grid without you both. It's not the same when we don't have the Beowulf Racing team there. But from the Flying Finn then, we do have Brad Pickett a further 2 points behind, and the Clark St James with DXT Motorsports driver picked up a top 5 last time out and is expected to break his way into the top 3 today. But Sam Hockley, many will be looking at and that second place finish last time out and thinking to themselves, could the privateer today started to be building a bit of momentum, because up to this point had yet to break into the top 5. But at Brands Hatch, his Aston Martin looked incredibly quick, and indeed, if Jared Love was not the one who ran away, we'd expect that Sam Hockley would have challenged him towards the end of the day. Nicholas Carlson, as we mentioned only moments ago, we won't be seeing him on the grid for the remainder of the season. However, the Beowulf Racing team driver does currently sit in 6th on 232 points, but only 12 ahead of Kyle Roy for Access in Sports with SimWorks, who unfortunately won't be on the grid today. Now that's because of the fact that he is getting ready to attend a friend's wedding, so therefore he's got to prioritise the arrangements there. He's not married to his car, unfortunately, and we look forward to seeing him back in a week's time. But we can promise you it's not his wedding, he's told us, yet, that is. So I wonder if something special's on the cards one day for the Scotsman, but unfortunately it does mean the Scottish resistance to the front of the field will be dissipated a little bit, and we hope that Carl has a great time at the wedding party, and we look forward to seeing him back on the grid in a week's time. But he's on 220 points, 16 ahead of Adam Smith, and then we do see the driver from Eurotitans Endurance right now standing the only best part of what is 28 points ahead of Luke van Gertel, and the MJK Sim Racing driver with his maiden win in round number 4 was on the grid at Brands Hatch, and therefore comes back today knowing he's got a 0 score that he cannot drop, as well as a 0 he is dropping. Ross Young sits only behind based on result count back in 10th place, and it's Mikhail Abasek and Steve Kershaw who complete your into top 12. Meanwhile in the club class, Adam Lynch with that brilliant recovery drive, a vital one at that, well he now sits in at first place once again, but he is 26 points ahead of Jack Giles. Giles, meanwhile, picked up a second place last time out, and the consistency right now of Adam Lynch has to be the motivator for everybody because he has yet to finish off of the podium. Jack Giles has had 2 podiums and also 2 top 5s and a top 10. He needs a little bit more if he wants to close the gap. Ashley Shucksmith sits in third, was not on the grid last time out. The Ferrari driver definitely missed at Brands Hatch, but he has been rising in form, so could he come back today with flying colours? He's on 290 points, 20 ahead of Christopher Petty. Petty last time out having a bit of a frustrating day of his own, given the fact he had the pace to be inside the top 5 in qualifying. It never quite materialised, particularly when we got to the race. Eddie Theobald, a maiden win, and well, the privateer right now, 244 points, leaps ahead of Jordan Butler, who was some of his close competition. Butler falls into 6th, meanwhile, 14 points behind for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsports. And then we do have James Fraser, the Moonshiners Racing Club driver, who fought hard for a 4th place finish at the Brands Hatch circuit after taking some very late evasive action for a wayward car of Jordan Butler. Indeed, and Adam Lynch having to do the same as well in that absolutely brilliant freeway fight for what was the final spot on the podium. And then in Fraser too close and had to go to the grass coming out of clearways. Adam Lynch, meanwhile, did not have to go to the grass and he could avoid both cars. But still, the Moonshiners Racing Club driver never gives up, and the same can be said for Philip Harris, who is only 4 points behind him, despite the fact he did have to give up due to damage to his car last time out at Brands Hatch. But of course, on the one-time winner, we have Arno Prague, not on the grid today, as we can see him in the YouTube chat. He's on 204 points ahead of Rob Gregg, who's 14 points ahead of the Moonshiners Racing. Well, Rob Gregg, who is a Moonshiners Racing Club driver, I should say. He's on 190 points, and he is 30 ahead of Steve Hughes. Hughes, the winner of round number 3, of course, that absolutely brilliant win for the Team UK Sim Racing with Freewheeler Racing driver, was not on the grid last time out. We hope to see him back today. And Dwayne Hoffman, who is non-finish at Brands Hatch, falls to 12th there on 156 points. But to the team standings we quickly go. And here we can see that Glass Tech Racing, well, what a day it was for them in the Master Split last time out. And indeed, with a 1-2-3 in Pro, with it being Maris Hibner ahead of William Humphrey and none other Matt Hoyland, well, they are now looking to be the force to be beaten. However, remaining in second, DDK Racing Team. They did take the win into for what was Jared Love and a 6th place for Harper in the Pro class, but they know they still need a little bit more if they want to be able to break away from the rest of the field. Because right now, Access Simsports with SimCoach are closing on the top 2. They remain in third, but the gap is closing between them and the leaders, and they are opening the gap versus the rest of the field. With Euro Titans Endurance moving from 5th to 4th with a solid set of results there for the team, particularly for Adam Smith. And meanwhile behind, Samantha Town Racing have fallen into 5th place. Although they've risen up from 6th, it should be said, but they're falling into a bit of a void right now. Well, they need the consistency of the results, as otherwise they'll continue to oscillate from being inside the top 5 to being out of it. And waiting for them first and foremost, 8 points behind, Dexterous Motorsports Siam. Meanwhile, Vulcan Motorsports there, they sit in 7th place and drop from 4th to 7th. Not a happy day for them whatsoever at Brands Hatch. And then we do see what is behind the leaders of the third pack in the top 10. LS Racing there, who've gone from 9th to 8th as their yo-yoing continues in the field. And they're just ahead of Access Sports with Simworks, who return to the top 10. But for how long after a good round last time out, we'll have to wait and see. As they complete in the top 10, it's Barbecue Bread Racing, who have broken into the top 10 for the first time this season. And the South African outfit 9, they need to try and stay there with another good haul of points. But from their 560 in 11th place, it's none other than what is 526 points for Vulcan Motorsports Gold. They've dropped from 8th to 11th, and the struggles continue right now, particularly for Black Flags that hit the race of both Sam Derbyshire and also Hayden Miller in the Pro Class in Masters at Brands Hatch, really scuppering all their progress. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let's progress our way, talking a little bit about our host circuit for today. Here's, of course, the Grand Prix Louter Circuit Zolder, located in the municipality of Heusden-Zolder in the Limburg province of the Flemish region of Belgium. That's a mouthful to say, but I finally got it right. It's only taken me 4 years to do it on a broadcast. Well, this circuit located in that location, 2.49 miles in length or 4.01 kilometres, depending on your preference of units, but it never changes the number of corners, 10 in total, and a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just for the brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track that's contained within it. However, this is a circuit that has to be seen to be believed, but before we do see the circuit, let's just quickly talk you through a lap around here, because it's a relatively two-dimensional circuit in the amount of elevation change it has, and as the drivers roar the way down the start-finish straight, they'll make their way in towards Erste Bend at turn number 1. Going through the fast-flying left-hander, the whole opening half lap is about fast-flying sweepers, because then they'll make the way into Stern at Votbox at turn number 2, before rolling away flat out through Canal Box at turn number 3, before then coming into the tributary corner of Lucian Bianchi Box at turn number 4. Then it's on to one of the longer straights as they roar the way towards the midpoint of the lap at the Kleiner chicane, where they'll hop and skip the way over the curbs, before making the way over the rise and downhill through Bitterbend at turn number 6, and then hard on the brakes they'll go to the original tributary name of this circuit, Circuit Talaman, in reference to what was the local provincial region, and our drivers we make the way through the triple corner of the chicane that is Tomlinson-Dennis at turn number 7. Left, right, they'll go, and as they power their way all the way over the ride, coming out of turn 7, it'll be down towards turn number 8. 9 in full as Boulder Bauckhage Spielbocht, and as they come out of the hairpin, it'll have been flat out through the chicane of Jochen Rindbocht at turn number 9 to break the way into Jaki Ikbocht at turn number 10 to complete lap and do it all over again. But 4 absolutely terrifying chicanes, plenty of sweeping bends as well, and short straights. This is definitely going to be a challenging circuit. So without further ado, let's make our way back to circuit side. And as we do, well, we look to the qualifying session. It's currently underway. 11 minutes to go here of the day. Leon Seeley currently the fastest of everybody out there, overall and in pro, by almost 2 tenths over Richard Simnor. The Corvette drivers here both looking very impressive, it must be said, in this qualifying session. And well, the Corvette seems to be the car to beat here today, at least if you're in the pro class. But of course, Simnor will be very happy to be on the front row alongside Leon Seeley, but he'll still be asking himself, where exactly can I find those 2 tenths that Seeley has over me? Now, what's very interesting about this circuit is the fact that this is going to be one of those circuits where a lot of drivers have been talking in the week about how to set up the car for Zolder. And many have said, take your setup from Brands Hatch and just change the ride height and the suspension settings, because this circuit is a high downforce circuit, much like Brands Hatch. You have the continuity of plenty of sweeping bend and also a couple of heavy braking zones. But you have more heavy braking zones around here, and you also have chicanes, something that Brands Hatch lacks. And therefore, it's the chicanes that are going to make the difference in the setup, because you need a car that can quickly change direction, but also it can mount these curves comfortably, because you have 2 lower ride height. The car will ground out of the curving, particularly if you hit the sausage curves at the Klein chicane at turn number 5, and you'll see the car sent any which way but the way you want it to go. As Richard Simnor right now is definitely go, 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 all the way in towards turn number 8. But as he does so, Leighton Austin's currently the 3rd fastest of everybody in the relentless racing at Mercedes, and Ashley Cooten and his teammate not too far behind, to be fair. It does seem as though the cars come in pairs at the moment, and it comes not necessarily with pairs of teammates, but in this instance it definitely does. He is the best part of what is 700ths off the back of Simnor, but in turn he is only 200ths quicker than his teammate of Coupland, as we see the second relentless racing Mercedes making its way through turn number 5. But then we do come to your 5th place runner at this time. He's currently a provisional pole sitter in the Interclass. Bobby Moss looking very quick here in the Porsche 992 GT3R. And we have heard that this Porsche is perhaps the happiest car over the curves, whether it be more raised curves or flatter ones, either way. But it seems the higher the curve, the better the Porsche is at tackling it. So Bobby Moss right now might be here with a car today. It's going to feel very comfortable, but to be fair, it's not just the car that does the work, it is also the driver. And that's exactly what Bobby Moss will be thinking as he makes his way down towards turn at number 1. But as he goes on to another flying lap, it's down to 12th place overall to find your 2nd place runner currently in the Interclass of Luke van Goertel, as he heads on around. And looking very quick in his own right as well. And, well, the 212 driver will be on course for one of his best qualifying performances of the season. In the dry, that is. Of course, he was the absolute monster driver in the wet at Fuji. But right now, the MJK SimRacing driver from the Netherlands, well, he's not too far away from his home circuit, although we're not racing in the Netherlands this season. And that's what happens when you hit the curb way too high down the entry in towards the Kleiner chicane. You'll go up into 2 wheels and you'll be sent into the stratosphere. And thankfully, that car did not roll there. I wouldn't be surprised if we will see a couple of cars roll in the practice sessions when drivers do not get it right. Well, thankfully, they can reset to the pit lane in practice and qualifying. They can tow to the pits, of course, in the race. They'll have an extended tow time there, which, of course, mimics how long it would take to get the car all the way from where it has crashed out of the race back to the pit lane via a tractor. But as we do see Luke van Goertel keep himself now on the tarmac, keeping all 4 wheels down there. He's not trying to make himself a motorcycle. Well, meanwhile, we do look to Sam Hockley, and he has changed today to the McLaren 720S Evo. Well, it's interesting for Sam here. Oh, goodness me, as he gets into a bit of an altercation of another driver. He's going to tow to the pit lane immediately. But Hockley not too impressed about that. He's going to need to tow that car. He can't leave it there. Otherwise, I think a few drivers will not be too pleased. But right now, making his way out the pit lane. Please forgive the solar panels. He'll rematerialise very shortly. There is Adam Lynch make his way out. Oh, gets it a bit wrong coming out the pit lane. That's going to be an unsafe pit exit, I believe. Now, he doesn't have a black flag against his name initially there, but he did cross the pit exit line. So I do wonder, well, we will see a black flag given to him coming into this lap. And it's just confirmed the black flag has been awarded to him. So Adam Lynch there will need to come back into the pits and clear that black flag. But the championship leader in the club class right now, well, he's leading the way in this qualifying session, but he won't be leading the way if somebody else finds more time and he keeps making that mistake coming out the pit lane. Jack Giles is currently the 2nd fastest in club. If Lynch is in 17th overall, Giles is in 20th place. The gap between the 2 drivers currently standing at a grand total of almost 2 tenths. And then we do have in 3rd, and the man just in front of Giles on the road, but he's behind him in terms of standings. It is Eddie Fearbold here, your winner from round number 5 in the club class. And right now the Mercedes driver will keep turn is 2/10 off of the time of Giles, or thereabouts. So it is looking quite equidistant between our club drivers at the moment, at least at the front, as Theobald there carries a bit too much speed. As he does so, we do say hello there to a few more of you, including All About the Gyro, who says, I'm a technical fault, so I've abstained from qualifying so I can resolve it. And thank you for the heads up. That's Dwayne Hoffman there, and that explains. So unfortunately, we won't be seeing the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport Dry out there for purposes of this qualifying session, but we will most likely see him out there on circuit. But it means he'll be starting all the way from the back of the field. That's not going to be easy, but to be fair, if anybody can start from the back of the field and do a brilliant job, it's Dwayne Hoffman and the FTVM team, in the fact they really are the team that looks at all the data, and they can be some of the smartest on strategy out there. As Martin Brandon, his Audi R8 Evo 2 LMS car, makes his way through the chicane, heads up towards the timeline. He's got 6 minutes to go and a bit more time to try and find even more time, given the fact he's currently your lowest placed driver out of our 39 drivers who've made the trip to Belgium. Right now, 2.7 seconds off the overall pole time, but where is he in relation to Adam Lynch in terms of time? He's currently 2.1 seconds off the club visual pole time. But we also say hello to Elliot Shucksmith there, who says, let's go the finger-licking Ferrari, and that's in reference, I believe, to none other than what is one of our cars in the club class. We are just trying to find our finger-licking Ferrari, and it's Ashley Shucksmith. And there he goes, he makes his way out, and well, the Colonel would definitely love that car. And right now, I can tell you one thing, that car is making me feel hungry for some Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I don't know if he's sponsored by them, but if so, I'll tell you one thing, can I have some free vouchers please, Ashley? It'd be grateful. But joking aside, he's going to chicken out of leaving the pit lane there initially, just because of the fact he needs to respect the fact the cars are coming through, and then he will get himself up to speed there, and off he'll go. But will he be clucking in joy, or will he be absolutely crying out in what will be misery with regards to this qualifying session? We will have to see. He's not got long left, and right now he's down towards the very back of the field. He's not where he wants to be. As he heads onwards, and I'll stop making the chicken jokes in there for now. I do promise, ladies and gentlemen, well, we need to give you an on-board lap with one of our drivers to show you what it's like delivering a lap, and who better to give you one than the man who's currently second overall into pole sitter. It is Luke van Goertel as he makes way into Erster Bend. So through the left-hander he goes there, clipping the apex curb and balancing the steering wheel as much as possible. Now over to the left-hand side to open up Stern Vokbox at turn number 2. Going all the way through the long right-hander and keeping the throttle pinned here flat out for Canal Box at turn number 3. And as he makes his way in towards the braking zone here for Julian Bianchi Box, or Lucian Bianchi Box I should say, at turn number 4. Coming onto that apex nice and smoothly, and now carrying the speed all the way down towards turn number 5. From the sweepers in towards the first heavy braking zone here, and this will be in towards the climb chicane. Braking at the 100 board, going all the way down to second gear. Now's the transition there, clips the second curve just about. Now over the right splitter and down through the long left-hander at turn number 6 he goes, where he does get to Salaman Box, the braking zone here that begins the quadruple quarter. Right into left he goes through the Salaman Box chicane, then through the double right here, where it's all about staying in second gear until you can absolutely max it out. Now go up to third, and we'll design to let the car roll a little bit wide there as he makes his way onwards, but I think he did pick up a slowdown penalty through the chicane for track limits, so therefore he's backed off. But still will stay on board as he makes his way down in towards Boda Bahashbel Box at turn number 8, as he comes through the right-hander and now in towards Jochen Rim Box at turn 9, where you can see they're completely flat out on what is that very narrow line, that racing line really clearly defined, and in towards Jackie Ick Box he goes, in towards turn number 10, and as he does so, on his way left into right, and will get himself set up for one more lap. But that is an on-board lap there, not quite 100% from Luke van Goertel, and a very tough lap to deliver here at Circuit Zolder's Grand Prix circuit. As he makes his way in towards turn 1 once again. Well, this circuit, no stranger to GT3 racing, once a staple of the Blancpain GT series in Europe, now known as GT World Challenge Europe. It was renamed by the SO in 2019, if I remember the series correctly, and 2018 was the last year that they did go racing here at Circuit Zolder. They have not returned since then. Indeed, the circuit has been gradually replaced for that series by the Circuit de Bar Francorchamps. But understand this is still what was once known as the home of DTM, no longer sees Deutsche Tourer Masters-Wagen racing around here. Indeed, it was a staple of the series back then. So what actually races here now, you might be thinking, as I start to say all the series that don't race here anymore. We still have the Euro NASCAR series. This is the crown jewel of Euro NASCAR every year at Circuit Zolder, and it's no wonder why. Big, bulky 450 horsepower V8 roaring the way around a very tight circuit, and those cars definitely are a handful. But right now, these GT3s are proving to be a handful, as we do see Richard Simnor pop into chat. So he's got out the car. He's had enough for the day in qualifying, and says that Leon is a quick peddler, and Leon Seeley absolutely rapid out there, it would seem. He's decided he's had enough as well. Too many drivers out there in this qualifying session at the moment. 2 minutes or so to go. And, well, who could find a bit more time out there? Are there some big surprises on the cards? Well, perhaps the biggest one of them all is the fact that Ashley Shucksmith has still yet to really get a good lap in. This is not where we normally see him, as James Fraser, meanwhile, he's improved. So he's jumped up to 4th place in club now, and that's 20th overall, just off of Eddie Theobald, by a grand total of, 2.3 tenths. Meanwhile, Martin Kenyon, well, I don't know what he's been able to do, but he's had a purple opening sector in class, so Kenyon's looking very quick out there. And so, well, he's just not been able to put the rest of the lap together, which is a bit unfortunate for Kenyon. As we do see Sam Hockley coming on down, he's currently the 4th fastest in the interclass and 17th fastest overall, just behind Ross Young, fellow McLaren driver, and he's trying to follow right now the McLaren of Ben Woodgate, who's right in front of him, the Inter-Racing team driver. This is not where he wants to be. Now, the McLaren is a bit of a double-edged sword here, because it is very good through direction changes. Chicanes are the McLaren's cup of tea. The British car definitely very rapid in terms of the rear-end transition, but where it does not have a good time is going over high curbs, and that's the problem with these chicanes around here, and also the curbs in general at Circuit Zolder on the exits, even for the sweepers, they're a bit loose. Oh, and that's going to be very loose there for Ben Woodgate in terms of the fact he took a lot of apex curb, and I think that as he dropped back down, the rear of the car completely let go and said no. So that's going to be a tow to the pits there as Brandon Dyer and comes through the turn 8 hairpin, and the Altitude 3M Esports drive not as quick as he was at Brands Hatch, but to be fair, whilst they are similar circuits in terms of how you want to set up the car downforce-wise, they are not similar circuits in terms of their overall nature. And Dyer's going to be giving it everything he can to try and get it on pole position. Don't doubt him about that, but right now he's still got to find a bit more time as we jump on board for a flying lap, our final flying lap from our pro driver. It's going down towards turn 1, and as he does so, bringing the car over to the right-hand side. Onto the brakes he goes, 150 metres from apex, trail braking down to 3rd gear. Now bringing the car all the way over to the left-hand side to open up turn number 2. As he does so, onto the brakes, 3rd gear, and as he comes out of the corner, you can see there on the throttle, nice and early, using all the road as he makes his way through Canal box, and as he roars his way up towards turn number 4, well, right now coming through Lucien Bianchi box corner, it's in 3rd gear every step of the way, and we're up to 4th on the exit. Now powering his way up towards the chicane to turn 5, and here it's all going to be about how he makes the line, braking as late as possible, about 90 metres from corner apex, 2nd gear through, decides not to mount the curbs at all, just clips them, goes to safety. That'll cost him a little bit of time, but it guarantees he makes the lap, and go down through bit of corner, keep over to the left-hand side for Tulum box chicane. Onto the brakes there, 125 metres from the opening apex, through in 2nd gear, holding 2nd all the way, and now last minute will go up into 3rd here for the transition in towards the final right-hander at turn number 7, and that gives him the best possible power and control of the car as he comes over the crest and down into the braking zone for turn number 8. As he goes on to the anchors, 150 metres of corner apex, there's a brake board up on the left-hand side that drivers look for. Ooh, a lot of power oversteer there. The car not too happy with the change, and the depression in the apex curve upsets the car as it comes out. We're now coming in towards turn number 10 here, in towards Jackie Xbox. Is he going to nail this? He is going to carry on. He mounts a lot of curb there. That sends the car wayward. Oh, and it's into the barrier there for Brandon Dyer. He's not happy about that, and that one curb collecting his lap and throwing it out the window. So, unfortunately for Brandon Dyer, here we go no higher than what will be 8th place overall, 6th place in pro. And well, we do have 2 inter-drivers inside this top 10 quite comfortably, Luc van Gertel and Bobby Moss. Adam Lynch has just picked up a slowdown. That's the track limits at Salama box, so that's going to completely invalidate his final lap and his last gasp attempt to try and make himself even higher in the overall order. He's already got the club pole position to his name, unless somebody can sneak a lap in. Eddie Theobald right now trying to do exactly that, but something tells me as Martin Brandon crosses the timeline, as I look at my Conte booth window, that right now Adam Lynch is going to be safe, because Theobald is not improving at all here, and as he makes his way through the left into right, well, right now things are not looking quick for him whatsoever. So I suspect for Eddie Theobald, this might be a lap to come into the pit lane. Now he's going to complete the lap. He's going to see whether he can deliver a better final sector, but runs a bit deep there. And at that point, the lap is definitely completely scuppered. He's lost the time, he's lost the line, and he picks up a slowdown for it as well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is qualifying complete. It's Leon Seeley who takes pole position here today on 1 minute 26.540. I believe that's his maiden pole position for the season overall and in pro. Luc van Gertel, meanwhile, returns to into pole position, starting 2nd on this grid. And well, in the dry as well, he's proven himself to be quite the weapon, and we do have none other than Charlie Walker and Richard Simnor on row number 2. Meanwhile, to take the club pole position is Adam Lynch, 18th overall, but most critically on pole in his class. So without further ado, ladies and gents, we head into the 5-minute warm-up period. And as all of our drivers do, well, there's definitely a bit of time here for everyone to just take a bit of a breather and get themselves very comfortably set up for the race that is to come. Now, of course, when our drivers do go into the race, will they make significant changes to the setup of the car? Some will be asking. And the answer will be yes, you will need to make some changes. The reason being, these cars, when they're on low fuel, they can be very aggressive. They can be very loose over the rear end compared to when you've got a lot of fuel in them. But also, when you put a bit more fuel in, you might need to consider changing the way the ride height sits, because the car will start to sit a little bit differently with the extra fuel in the car and actually more weight towards the rear, unless it's the Porsche 992 where you have more fuel in the front, because the fuel tank is in the front of the car, and that creates a very interesting aerodynamic balance where essentially the car gets lighter in the front as the day goes on and suddenly all the downforce starts to shift towards the back. Either way around here, well, definitely you want a very confident car. You want one where you can do that chicane, you can do all the chicanes consistently throughout, but particularly the Kleiner chicane. You want to be able to go through there and not have to worry. If you slightly clip the curve versus avoid it, is it going to cause the car to barrel out of control? And well, Simon makes his way beyond the tree line. The 342 driver here right now, definitely eager to get as many laps in as possible. And was Milton Tomlinson-Dennis, so we say hello to, says STR Power in the YouTube chat. Well, Leon Seeley definitely represents the team very proudly today, but Richard Simler, I think, wants to try and take on the man who's definitely considered to be his master, if you will, in terms of the one he's been following all season long. And well, will we see the day today where the apprentice and the Corvette outweighs the master, or will it continue? And yes, I am thinking of some Star Wars analogies there, ladies and gentlemen, if you were wondering, given the fact we did have May the 4th Day, or Star Wars Day, earlier on this week, back on Monday, although I'm going to try and put the Star Wars puns back in the box before they all come out, because at the end of the day, if I bring them all out, it's not the right day anymore. But as Richard Simnor comes that line, 3 minutes left for him, many a driver will not be going out onto circuit. Understandably, because of the fact they don't want to put themselves under any mental pressure. This is definitely one of those circuits whereby if you're not mentally in the right space, you're not going to go well at Circuit Zolder. You need to be ready to lock in and focus for the time of the race. Of course, we have a 1 hour race here, 60 minutes, and you can imagine with the shortness of lap as well, this is a very quick lap round here. We are going to get well more than 30 laps in, and well, 30 laps of high consistency. That is the challenge. As Adrian Howard on cold tyres there gets it wrong coming out of the final corner, and well, he does now reset himself to the pit lane. As we see Benjamin Massey, the Inox Motorsport driver, in his Mercedes AMG Evo. We look forward to the day when he does run a similar livery to Mikhail Abasek, who recently changed livery, of course, and here is the new livery on his Ferrari. The Inox Motorsport trying to make his way out, and that absolutely lovely livery there. And I'll tell you one thing, I am definitely getting the vibes. If anybody does remember, of course, the liveries they used to run in GT World Challenge Europe through what was 2015 through to 2020, first on the Ferrari 488, then on the 488 Evo model, before they then did overhaul the liveries. We're thinking to the era, of course, we had the likes of Dale Grell race, well, that livery absolutely looking brilliant. Now, we do say hello to Denny Ploger in the YouTube chat, and we must give a brief mention to Denny Ploger, as we do have a driver change for this season across our split and what is the Master split, where Denny Ploger has moved to Masters, and we do have James Bostock now in Superstars, and it is a direct like-for-like swap, whereby the GPX Simsport Onyx driver has moved into the club class here in Superstars, and meanwhile we're seeing Ploger in club move into Masters, and we wish Denny all the best luck as he makes his way into the Masters, and we look forward to hearing how he gets on over there. He's definitely had a bit of an up and down time so far this season in the Superstars. Meanwhile, we look forward to seeing James Bostock out on the grid. I don't think he's here today. I don't think, unfortunately, he's been able to make the journey to Belgium. But we look forward to today when he does join the grid here formally. I suspect he'll be next time out at Suzuka, and whether he can really make some big resounding waves happen in the club class of Superstars. But still, as all drivers get set, we've got a minute left to go, and that's time for me to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that if you do need to step away for a brief moment, if you do need to have that all-important bathroom break, alternatively, you're perhaps thinking to yourself right now, I'm going to need a bit of a top of a liquid refreshment midway through the race, go do it now, because you won't have much more time to do so. I believe we've got a short formation lap as well, so we're going to have to really roar away through the grid, as Leighton Austin there decides to launch himself up into the air, and indeed, right now, he's riding the high of excitement. We encourage you to ride the high of excitement as well, and make sure you're all topped up and ready for this broadcast, because of course, we're only moments away from going to the grid, and when we do, you won't want to miss a second of it. And we do see Denny Ploger saying there, next week he's starting in the Masters, so we look forward to you starting then and there, Denny, so we keep in track of your aspirations and also your achievements in the class as a Suzuka onwards. But ladies and gentlemen, as everyone does calm on down, we're going to take a quick sip of water as we now transition over to the grid for one and only race here at Circuit Zolder, because of course it is time for round number 6 of the Superstar Split in the SimRacing International Thursday GT3 Championship Season 12. And so as our drivers make the way to the grid, this is how they'll line up for our one and only race today. Here at Circuit Zolder, Leon Seeley takes pole position, proudly representing Samantha Town Racing, the only member of the team on the grid today, with Milton Tomlinson-Dennis watching from the sidelines. But he starts on pole, and pole position it was by 1.6 tenths over the Interpole sitter Luc van Goertel. The Dutchman absolutely flying high for MJK Sim Racing, an incredible pole lap, and we'll understand he's going to be pleased with that, because the last time he took pole in class was in the wet at Fuji, but here today in the dry, he's showing himself to be very comfortable in a car that's not too far away from his home circuit and his home country. We do see Charlie Walker starting in third there for Relentless Racing ahead of DCW Racing Blues Richard Simnor. In the end, Walker just hipping Simnor to the post by the best part of only 6 thousandths. Behind them on row number 3, Leighton Austin for Relentless Racing, in the company of Ashley Coupland. And well, remember, Leighton Austin had a drive-through penalty last time out. He's got rid of that now. Nobody has any penalties to serve in the race today. Will we see Austin and Coupland fight each other ferociously once again here? My gut feeling is yes, they will. Bobby Moss starts second in the interclass of the SimRacing Collective Esports, being outpaced to pole in the end, but to be fair, looking quick. And Brandon Dyer joins him on the fourth row of the grid for Altitude Frame Esports. Joris Peters Veem starts in 9th place, the privateer of Daniel Newman Racing Reds Daniel Page. And outside the top 10, starting in 11th place, it's going to be Ben Woodgate. And how will the tables will turn for the Inter-Racing team driver? That is not the qualifying position he wanted. Still, he'll start on that 6th row in the company of Raz Harper for DDK with RaceStatBot.com. And the Ford Mustang driver really struggling with the car at the moment, given the balance points update that happened a couple of weeks ago. And that Mustang is just not looking the same. But is it not looking the same, or is it just how close the field is when he's only 4 attempts off the pole? It's only a further half attempt to Nils Bauckhage, the NJB Performance Lamborghini driver, who starts in his weakest qualifying position in a couple of rounds, 13th overall. Alongside the German on that 7th row of the grid, it will be none other than Corey Price for Darkwind Racing. And then we do see Bradley Setters for Relentless Racing completing the top 15. He completes a round of pros before you do come to your inter-drive of Ross Young starting 16th for Clark St James with Dexterous Motorsports, and the Scotsman just ahead of Sam Hockley there, the privateer. Adam Lynch starts pole position for the purposes of the club class, just ahead of Martin Kenyon for Clark St James with DXT. He made some late gains in qualifying, and it's going to be Jack Giles starting second in club for Eurotitans Endurance, and had a better lap in hand, I do believe, but unfortunately not quite able to deliver it as he completes your top 20. 21st, it's going to be Justin Noel, the American driver, in the 315, just ahead of Mikhail Abaset for Inox Motorsports. And then we do have Mark Collicott for DCW Racing Blue ahead of Eddie Fearbold, your Brands Hatch Club winner. He starts on the 12th row today. Alfred Kirsten starts in 25th for Simstrap by Glass Tech Racing ahead of none other than Adam Smith for Eurotitans Endurance. And then we do have Rob Gregg for Moonshiners Racing Club ahead of his teammate James Fraser. That's the first time they've shared the same row together this season, and it's the first time that Rob Gregg has out-qualified Fraser. We then do see Steve Hughes, fellow club driver, starting 29th for Freewheeler Racing UK Sim Racing. And then we do have Benjamin Massey for Inox Motorsport completing the top 30, having a difficult day in qualifying. Outside the top 30, 31st, it's going to be Adrian Howard for Daniel Newman Racing Red ahead of the privateer of Tom Weston. And then we're going to have Christopher Petty starting 33rd ahead of Max Dean, the two privateers together on row 17. And it's going to be Ollie Smith, 35th for Simstrap by Glass Tech Racing ahead of Full Tilt Virtual Motorsports Jordan Butler. And then Ashley Shucksmith, the privateer in the KFC machine, starts 37th ahead of Martin Branton. The last try to set a valid lap in qualifying, but he's starting from the pit lane, as is Thomas Weston. And behind the Access and Sports with SimWorks Dry, at least in qualifying, not setting a lap time due to a technical issue with the car, but they've got it resolved. He is starting from the back of the grid. It'll be a 39th place starter of Dwayne Hoffman for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsports. Well, ladies and gents, with this formation lap, it's gradually coming to its close. They're already making the way now down towards the final corner, the final chicane, and as they get ready to go, well, Leon Seeley, of course, finds himself on pole today. The first time he's taken pole position this season. And can he convert it into a win? Well, as they make the way past the tree line, they all come into view. It'll be over to Leon Seeley to get us ready and away for 60 minutes of racing here at Circuit Zolder in round number 6 of the championship. Brought to you on iRacing. And it's lights down, away we go for 60 minutes of racing, just like that, as Leon Seeley leads the field down towards turn number 1. And as they do go down into the braking zone, it's going to be 4 wide there in the mid-pack, and that's going to be a big dive at the inside there for Leighton Austin. Luc van Goertel on the outside survives it just about as all the drivers make their way through. Oh, there's been a big incident further back, and well, that's involved multiple drivers. Eddie Fearbold caught up in that. I think we've got about 7 or 8 drivers caught up there, and that's going to cause a big split in the field. But meanwhile, behind, well, it's 3 by 3 coming through. Here's that. It's going to be Rob Gregg and James Fraser absolutely trying to reverse Moses Benjamin Massey, and they're going to do it there. They're going to reverse the Bible and make the round around him. But not if Massey comes back here. Oh, there's a bit of contact between the two of them as they make the way past the solar panel. Well, they come into view, and then Massey side by side there. He's lost the front bumper. I think that car's going to lose pace. But meanwhile, coming in towards the Kleiner chicane, that is going to be moved by Corey Price up the inside of Daniel Page. What is the Inter Racing Team Lamborghini making headway? And you can see that Corey Price already looking to attack Joris Peters Veem. as they come down through Butter and in towards the alarm box. He's going to make 2 places in the space of 2 corners. A bit side by side through here, and Peter's is not going to give way at all, but he's going to have to, as that Lamborghini goes on the 4 tag, and the Dartman Racing try here absolutely attacking aggressively. Lovely work from 398 as he roars his way onwards, but is he going to get the move done? Oh, there's elbows out there again for Peter's Veen. That's going to open up a doorway here for Nils Bauckhage as he looks for a move. We briefly lose always Price. He comes back for the ether, and these drivers make the way through and in towards turn number 10, but not about this side by side fight ending at any point, as right now Bauckhage is still on to watch on as Peter's Veen and Price are still too wide heading in towards the chicane, but Peter on the brakes is going to be Price, but Peter's Veen takes a lot of curve. That's going to send the car into the sky. Where's Price? He's rematerialised, and as they come towards the line, well, they've shown you can go practically the entirety of lap too wide, but after 1 lap we've got a black flag for none other than what we Walker, Charlie Walker, I believe, were jump start. Alternatively, he's already picked up enough instant points, but surely not that early on, and I think Walker right now, if he had a slow down, he's not burnt it, but still we don't know the full explanation, but we can see the outcome, which is going to put him now on a collision course with several other drivers who have to come into the pits for a drive-through penalty. So that's absolutely gut-wrenching for Relentless Racing, as they've had an absolutely brilliant start to the day, and now it's all gone very much backwards. Meanwhile, Raz Harper, well, he's avoided all the madness at the start, and he's making up place. He's already up into 6th place, but further back, Adam Lynch is still your club leader, having started on pole. He's gone from 18th to 15th, and was all the drivers coming down, Bobby Moss there letting Raz Harper go at the very bottom of your picture. And meanwhile, you can see here Adam Lynch and Brandon Dyer swapping place, and Lynch on the inside there, and I think backing out the last possible moment. Meanwhile, further back, Eddie Fearbold, well, he's definitely been one of the biggest losers at the start of this race. He was one of the victims of that open corner instant, and Jordan Butler is right there behind him right now. And meanwhile, where's Drain Hoffman in all this? Well, the man who started for the very back of the field has gained a few places. Oh, he's still got a lot more work to do, as Ashley Cooper is leaving the pits right now, so repair work's been done to his car. But remember, whilst it's gone wrong for one Relentless Racing car in terms of damage to the car, meanwhile it is going to be Charlie Walker, his teammate, is going to come in for a drive-through penalty in the near future. As we say hello to Mark Kent, who says, well, that was an aggressive start, and indeed a lot of aggression there. I think a lot of drivers really taking the philosophy, which is they need to make up the places early, otherwise they are going to be stuck later on. But right now, we've got ourselves to James Fraser and Adam Smith fighting side by side. This is an important battle in the fact that, of course, James Fraser wants to go hunt after Jack Giles. He's going to make sure Smith stays behind for now, and Smith's got aspirations to move up his own accord, the 5th place runner into class. But coming across that time line, going on to lap number 3, now the field starts to settle down, and Leon Seeley, well, he's definitely pumping out the best possible sectors he can nice and early on here, and his game plan right now is just to run away. But as he comes in towards turn number 4, he knows he's still got a lot of work to do for the FTR team, as Luke Van Gertel, your inter-leader, follows him 2.4 seconds behind. He's got 2.7 second gap to Richard Simnor, currently second of your pro drivers. He's got Leighton Austin and Raz Harper trying to chase him down. Harper's definitely been one of the big stars at the start of this race, gaining 5th now as a result of the drive-through penalty for Walker, and Bobby Moss second place in injuries, coming all the way from 7th to 6th. The most important part is he's got caught up in the pros, and he's fighting hard with them, as Corey Price right now gets it very close to the back of here as they come over the crest and down in towards the chicane. And in the end, Moss going defensive here. Now the SimRacing Collective Esports driver, whilst many would say, why is he defending? Well, the answer to that question, simply put, is the fact that he wants to hold track position to chase after Van Gertel. He does not want Price getting through. He hasn't got any teammates on the pro class as the SimRacing Collective Esports driver. He is a one-man band in this series. But right now, Bobby doing a very good job here, really intermingling with the top tier. As they come through, we can see that Joris Petersveen, he had to give up that position after what was a very ferocious side-by-side fight for the entirety of a lap. And Daniel Page, Nils Bauckhage, they complete the top 10 with Bradley Setters best of the rest in 11th. But once things are calming down a little bit here, we do look back to the back of the field. And a sim strapped by Glasstep Racing Machine, the 117 of Ollie Smith. Ryan 8 on the back of Ashley Shucksmith as he comes out of the hairpin. Excellent out to turn at number 8. The traction are not too good for the Mercedes. I do wonder whether that Ferrari right now is going to be one of those cars whereby it doesn't really have the pace around here, but it has the corner exits now down, and it is a very comfortable car. As Smith takes a little bit of grass there on entry in towards Yaki 8 box bend, and when doing so, just getting it slightly wrong. He's got to get it back together now as he makes his way up towards turn 1. It's so easy to get greedy with the tarmac going into these corners. You want as much width as humanly possible, and knowing there's a lot of grass there, alternatively there is a wall, such as going into Østerbed at turn number 1. So Smith falling back a little bit at the moment. He's still got a bit of work to do if he wants to chase after Shucksmith. As we do leave him, we look a little bit further up the road. Here's Christopher Petty, the 191 driver, in the 9th place club position. And he gives over Ross Young taking a bit of a poke. And Young right now, well, Young definitely had a bit of a miserable start to the race. Got caught up in all the madness, and now Ross Young's going to make a move around the outside. Will Petty battle him on the brakes? No, he lets it go there. But Dwayne Hoffman will see this and think, right, now I've got to try and get my fangs into that Porsche in front as we jump on board with the American driver. Over the rise. Now for Dwayne, it's definitely been a difficult day because he had no qualifying lap set as a result of a technical issue with the car, but they've got it resolved. That's the important thing. Going through to Lombok Bend, he's now, of course, really got to get those muscles going as much as possible. He's practiced plenty, but when you do have a qualifying session, it's 45 minutes and you don't get to turn a lap, that can lead to a little bit of atrophy with regards to how you're feeling in the car, and as a result, suddenly, you've really got to get yourself energized once again. And I suspect all the team would have been on the radio to him in the warm-up period, just saying to him, you've got this trying, and right now they're taking a bit too much curb on the exit of turn 8, and had to correct himself, but thankfully not had to cut any grass there, he would have picked up a slowdown. Leave at Dwayne Hoffman, but actually Shucksmith trying to chase after him. We look back up to Bobby Moss, who has been passed by Corey Price, and Joris Peters-Veen trying to go around the outside in there, in towards turn number 2, and through out of 3 for Canard Box Bend. Too easy a move there for Peters-Veen, who right now I think has been given the short straw of the situation, and Nils Bauckhage is right behind. These Lamborghinis, they may not have been the quickest in qualifying, but they are now starting to find their pace in the race very quickly. Although we do need to take a look back at what exactly happened right at the start. We are going to get a replay of that shortly, ladies and gentlemen. What happened at turn number 1 was definitely a very dramatic opening corner, and we'll need a bit of an explanation as to what exactly did go wrong. But in fact, I think we are going to get that replay, and here we go for a trip back in time. So this will look to the blimp camera view as it went wrong for some and went right for so many others. And we're going to look towards Ben Woodgate, the man who started just outside the top 10. So Leon Seeley got the field away, and as they made way down towards turn number 1, we did see at the Battle of the Relentless Racing Cars there. Big dive at the inside of Leighton Austin, and they go into the tree line here. Now we lose visibility of what happened, but something tells me there was one of the Relentless Racing Cars being turned around there, and well, Ben Woodgate got caught up in it. Now we take another look. Was this Ashley Koopman being turned? He came down in towards that opening course. So watch the middle of the row. That's actually Koopman's Mercedes you're looking for. And then it was tapped there. I think there was a bit of contact with Bobby Moss based on that angle. That's what sent him sideways. And meanwhile, Ben Woodgate lost it his own volition, and a few cars went deep as a result of that. So this is what it looked like from on board Ben Woodgate as they went green, trying to find his place behind Joris Peters-Veen, and in the end, and to settle down, sit behind on a very tight line, tap the rear of his car, and unfortunately, Woodgate, by tapping Joris Peters-Veen, went around, and it all went wrong for him, but thankfully was not collected. The whole field had to try and take scrambling action. Oh, that went a bit wrong there for a couple of drives, including Ross Young and Martin Kenyon. This is what happened between them as they made their way down in towards the opening bend. So Ross Young literally go around the outside of many. In fact, on that outside line, he was in a real good safe spot, but unfortunately got hit on the rear there by what was your Porsches coming on through, and Ross Young being turned around very quickly. It's a bit of a frustrating moment there for the 228 driver. Not quite sure who that was who tapped to the back, but it was definitely one of our Porsches, and that's what sent him on around. But for Martin Kenyon, well, this was Martin Kenyon going through the opening bend as well. What happened to him? Well, in the end, he just to be parked on the apex. They tried to avoid everything that was going on, and had to slam the brakes on again there with the wayward car of what was Ross Young. Did very well to evade, did Martin Kenyon for Clarkson James with Dexter's Motorsports. That's how you do get it done. We see Mikhail Abasset having a miserable start as well. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we do take a look at what happened to Ben Woodgate only moments ago. This is on lap number 3, the InterRacing team driver trying to recover some places, and as he made his way through to line box side by side, collected there Ashley Shucksmith's car, turned him sideways, and well, that's going to be 6 to 1.5 dozen the other based on that camera angle. That's not a clear idea of who might be at fault, but then again, that's what the stewards are here to look at. But both drivers then not perhaps giving each other the space needed, and Woodgate feeling the bigger recipient of the damage that moment. But meanwhile, we come back to your live racing. And as we do, well, there's more battling going on as Eddie Fearbold right now continues to chase after James Fraser. And well, Fraser has recently made a couple of laces up, but his target right now is try and break away from Fearbold, who's trying to catch up to the back of him. Further back, Mikhail Abasset. Oh, he's gone around at turn 1 on the open lap. It all went round at Erster Bend, and right now he's going to be the Erster to get it wrong this time as well. As we do see Martin Brandon coming up behind, and there is Ben Woodgate with him. So it's gone a bit wrong for Mikhail Abasset. It went wrong the open lap, and it's just had to go wrong again. What's it going to be now? Can he get himself back together, or is that something that's systemic with the car? We'll have to wait and see, because meanwhile, we do have a battle coming up to bend, and that is going to be Steve Hughes passing Bradley Setters, and he's trying to follow Rob Gregg through for third place in club at the moment. So the three-wheeler racing UK sim racing driver on the attack here as they make the back rise. 10 minutes this race complete, still got plenty more of it to go. This race is far from over, and we'll keep in mind that whilst the field may be calming down to a degree right now, it won't stay this calm forever, because strategy is going to be a big part, and also time management and fuel saving will also be critical in equal measure. If you've got the tyres that last you to the end of the race, if you feel very comfortable on them, that can make up a lot of time, particularly towards the end of the hour. In the last 15 minutes, you'll expect that those who've not been able to save the tyres will suddenly start to really fall off the pace. You won't have the grip, particularly through what is the opening sector and also the run of Talam and Box Bend. Well, as Rob Gregg holds on to third right now in the club class, coming down towards turn number 1. Bradley Setters following with Adrian Howard and Benjamin Massey there for close company. They all stay as they are. As meanwhile, Justin Noel, the privateer from the USA, trying to look for a move on Jordan Butler. That's not coming forward for the moment at least. But what he's going, oh, that goes wrong for Jordan Butler, and then Justin Noel goes into the side and there had no time to react. And unfortunately, that Aston Martin's going to significant front end damage. Ross Young looks up the inside here, waits very patiently to see where Noel's going to position the car and whether he survives the opening bends. But right now, as he goes side by side, a Young could dive up the inside there in towards Lucien Banky-Bocht. And well, the clock St James, the DXT driver there, taking a critical place overall as he tries to recover this race and starting in third place in the Interclass. He's now up into 8th in the class. He's still got a long way to go. But very unfortunate there for Justin Noel and Jordan Butler. I don't think there was anything that could be done in that situation. They were just on a collision course. But we take a look back at what exactly happened to Jordan Butler. But before we do that, we take a look back to what happened to Mikhail Abasek only a moment ago. This was going on to at lap number 7 as he made his way in towards the corner. We do apologise there, ladies and gentlemen, not quite sure what's happened. As he made his way through the bend, well, in the end, the Inox Motorsport tried going spinning around and it all went to the ground. But we also did have, of course, this for Jordan Butler only moments later. And this was going very wrong for Jordan Butler, coming down in towards turn number 1. As he did so, well, lost the rear of the car, and Justin Noel went to the side of him, thinking that Butler was going to carry the speed. He would not have known that that Mercedes was going loose, and unfortunately both drivers there picking up wounds as a result of it. But back to your live racing. And if we do come back there, and while overlay does refresh itself, it does that every so often. Well, meanwhile, we do look to Robert Gregg right now, still keeping Steve Hughes behind. But Hughes with him quite closely at the moment. Battles at the front of the field, by the way. We should point out that Raz Harper has found his way past Leighton Austin. We'll get a replay of that shortly to explain what's happened there. Rob Gregg right now for the Moonshiners Racing Club team, definitely enjoying one of his best performances of the season so far. Meanwhile, Brandon Dyer is going to make his way past Nils Bauckhage, who's got it wrong at the Klein chicane. He's had to give up a place to Daniel Page, and he's had to give up 2 places there as he burns a slowdown penalty. And well, that consistency, as we mentioned earlier on, is going to be critical. If you keep picking up slowdowns, you'll be getting off track. So you'll be losing time as James Fraser goes off track there out to the chicane. He won't be getting a slowdown. The gravel champ's done enough of that for him. And the Moonshiners Racing Club try to lose his 5th place in club to Eddie Fearbold, who now moves onwards in a very heavily wounded car. Now, Mikhail Abasek off camera has had to tow to the pit lane due to a further incident, which I don't think we're going to get a replay of at the moment, at least, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, big loss for him, no doubt about it. The Inox Motorsport team having a nightmare day here today at Circuit Zolder. Although, to be fair to Benjamin Massey, he's not doing too bad. He's come all the way up from 30th place to 21st. He has gained a couple of places in Pro. His next target is Bradley Setters. Bear in mind, of course, that Massey did lose his front bumper after the open-up contact coming from turns 2 and 3. But Massey right now definitely getting his head into the game. As we see Bradley Setters looking for a move here on Steve Hughes in towards turn number 1, trying to take that place. Goes up the inside, but remember, move to the inside in turn 1. Make sure you go defensive. Hold the phone on that one, because that is none other than not Adrian Howard there. That is the car of Jack Giles going around as the Eurotitans endurance driver goes for a spin at turn number 1. So another driver claimed by the opening bend. And with the 157 British driver right now falls to 4th place in the club class. So Steve Hughes will now take that. Rob Gregg now moves up into 2nd in the class. Adam Lynch is still very much safe from all the madness and action. But we see Steve Hughes, meanwhile, he has been passed by Bradley Setters whilst all that was happening at turn 2. Now he has Adrian Howard right behind him. And well, Howard's going to make a move immediately there. Hughes does not get the best of runs. And this is going to enable Benjamin Massey to look around the outside at Butter Bend. And well, Hughes here just holds his outside line, lets Massey take it. But Massey then can't beat him on the brakes in that Porsche. And well, as a result, Steve Hughes holds his ground for now. For goodness me, this is definitely chop and change here as Dwayne Hoffman and Alfred Kirsten swapping places there. Kirsten moving ahead in the bumperless Mercedes, and Dwayne Hoffman staying out of trouble as he continues to careen his way forward. Behind, Ashley Shuck-Smith trying to make sure that Ollie Smith does not get any closer. And the priority right now, the 172 Ferrari, keeping that gap or thereabouts, but understandably, that gap could go any which way at any possible moment. One small mistake, I'm saying that Mercedes could be ahead. Alternatively, if he keeps up the smoothest of the laps, he might be able to break away. Meanwhile, Bobby Moss, well, he's causing the top 6 to break away at the moment. The 2nd place into driver. He's got Joris Petersbeem close behind him here as they make the way in towards turn number 4. And what we can see behind is that Daniel Page and Brandon Dyer are all queuing up, and Nils Bauckhage is on a recovery to close up. But Petersbeem looking to the inside here. He's trying to gauge where he's close enough to look up for a move. The answer to that, unfortunately, is no. As we ride on board with your 351 drives, he comes over the rise once again. staying very close, no doubt about it. But can he look for the move this time? The answer's going to be no. But meanwhile, we have had an incident for Brandon Dye. He's gone off track at the Klein chicane. He's dropping down the order on the time. He's fallen from what was the back end of the top 10 all the way down, currently to 14th place. The drama for him. HRS Petersveen gets the wiper on there. I think that's to get some of the debris off his windshield. Nothing more than that. We're not expecting any rain here today. And he goes very late on the brakes. Dives all the way to the inside there, making sure not to collect the SimRacing Collective Porsche. And well, Bobby Moss saw it coming in and held the steering wheel open to make sure they did not make contact. But Joris Petersveen losing out there in that braking zone. But well done to them both for taking evasive action to each other. Otherwise, that could have been tears for both drivers. And that's the last thing they want. We're coming out to turn number 10 and making the way down towards turn number 1. Right now, Bobby Moss definitely proving to be a bit frustrating for the Dutchman who's chasing him. But the British driver here putting on absolutely solid effort to hold on to that 7th place. Luke van Goertel right now is just gradually growing his gap away. As we do look back down to your leader in the club class, here is Adam Lynch, the privateer right now in control with Mark Collicott behind. And well, shout out to Mark Collicott. He's really gone under the radar. He's come all the way up from 7th place in the interclass to 4th so far. And well, 13th overall, having slid all the way down in 23rd place. Just avoided the madness on the open lap. And the DCW Racing Blue drives doing an absolutely brilliant job of all this. But meanwhile, Moss versus Joris Petersveen in towards the Klein chicane. This time Petersveen gets his elbows out and immediately Daniel Page says, okay, if you're going through Joris, I'm going to do the same. So Bonus loses out their 2 places the price of 1 quarter, but to be fair to him, it's overall positions, not class position. And if he reminds himself that, he'll feel a little bit better about it, as Nils Bauckhage will very shortly look to do the same as they come out of turn number 7. And that's how moves can be made then, how quickly time can be made and won or lost. Meanwhile, whilst all this battling continues to wage out between our pros and also the inters in amongst them, Ross Young looking up the inside here. Well, in fact, it's going to need the outside to the inside line. We should correct ourselves. Fribberter into a slalom box versus James Fraser. Found the brakes there, and Fraser in the end on a very tight line coming out the chicane, but Young gives him the space to race. Brilliant respectful racing there, and in the end, Fraser does just about hold ahead. And Ross Young tucks him behind once again as Justin follows. It is a club driver ahead of an inter driver ahead of a pro driver here. So it's the 3 classes, but in reverse order. But that always leads to a bit of interest. But right now, James Fraser, I think, wants to chase after this man, Eddie Fearbold, who's a bit further up the road by comparison, and looking very happy in 5th place in the club class. Sans front bumper, mind you, but at the same time as well, it's not holding him back too much. From here, it's Adrian Howard, who has got Martin Kenyon for close company. Bradley Setter's just going up the inside of Rob Gregg in turn 1. They swapped around for overall 16th. Adrian Howard right now trying to keep Martin Kenyon at bay. Now, these two, I don't think have fought each other so far this season, unless my memory is incorrect, in the fact that Martin Kenyon and Adrian Howard normally have been at slightly different parts of the interfield. But this will be their first exposure fighting, and right now the Daniel Newman racing red dry in the Porsche 992. Well, the car's more comfortable through the corners and particularly through these chicanes versus a Lamborghini that seems to be going quicker and quicker with every lap turn, regardless of what class it's in. Now, Kenyon coming in very aggressively on the brakes there. The amount he was able to close up on the trail braking, I think that might be Kenyon's strength. He's just able to be a bit light on the brakes earlier on in the braking zone, when it means he can carry so much more speed towards the corner, and it gives him closer proximity to look for those moves and more pace through the bends itself. Understanding the concertina effect is always a bit of a visual glitch there, and in fact it makes you think cars are closer than they actually are in terms of time. But right now Kenyon definitely looking very threatening there to the back of Adrian Howard for 6th place in Inter. Let's keep our eyes peeled on that. Meanwhile, whilst these drivers weave their way between the corners, Adam Smith has got Bradley Setters just behind him now, and Setters definitely trying to make up for lost time earlier on, as the Eurotitans endurance driver running in at 5th place in his class does not want to be propelled backwards towards Howard or Kenyon. Mind a little bit while we look from what is a battle between the Relentless Race and the Eurotitans endurance driver as they come down towards Erster. And will it be a move there from Setters? He's going to go for it on Smith. Will Smith have to give up overall position? He's going to defend it coming through the corner and coming in towards turn number 2. In the end, Smith will hold on. And we leave them for a brief moment because right now Raz Harper has got the closing presence of Leighton Austin, the other Relentless Racing car, inside the top 20. And Corey Price is at the back of the group as Richard Simnell goes through the camera shot for a brief moment. DCW Racing drive still 3rd overall, 2nd in pro, and then we do see Harper, Austin and Price close together. In terms of how the class looks at the moment, well, the fastest lap of the race is currently owned by Luke van Goertel. That's why currently Inter is above Pro in terms of the time trial standings. It's based on fastest lap, but right now, forget about that, because that's Corey Price trying to go around the outside of Leighton Austin, goes to the switchback at turn number 8. That's not going to work out, and right now Price flashing his headlights there. That's trying to distract the Dutchman as much as humanly possible. But as he makes his way down, Leighton Austin, the Briton, trying to hold on here for relentless racing, and running away from left into right. No change, at least for now. Austin definitely feeling the heat here. He's no stranger to feeding the heat, given the amount of heat he's put on other drivers as well. He's as good as giving as he is as taking. As they come down through turn number 1, well, 20 minutes of this race done. Nobody making any signs of coming into the pit lane, at least for now, for strategic reasons. And I get the feeling they're going to try and push these fuel tanks as long as humanly possible. But understandably, should somebody decide to come into the pits, particularly if they're further down, if they can find some clear track, they may be able to get a significant undercut here, like Brands Hatch. We do have a relatively short pit time here today at Circuit Zolder, and that could really make or break somebody's race. If you're able to come out after an absolutely efficient pit stop, make up some ground, it could be as good as going long. Although normally we do see drivers go for the overcut, or going long as we also refer to it, and the fact they don't want to lose track position, and of course the lighter the car, the quicker the GT3 is, sometimes gambling can be worth it. But Mark Collicott right now, so Adam Lynch moving ahead of your club last leader is the Inter full place runner. His next target is Sam Hockley, and it will be for third place in the Inter class, as Adam Lynch will just tuck in behind. But from then, we do look back to Max Dean, and right now he's trying to hunt 6th place in clubs. He's all over the back of James Fraser like a bad rash. Alfred Kirsten behind there, the Inter driver who can't really get involved at the moment. Well, I think he's going to look for it as Kirsten, and then decides not to get involved, realising that in doing so, he'll probably just annoy Max Dean a little bit, as Fraser has a poor run coming out of the chicane to be 3 wide. There's no space there in the middle of the road, and as they come through, they're going to get connected together, and the 2 club drivers go off. Dean with Fraser, and well, Alfred Kirsten survives it, but something tells me that he's not going to survive being called to the steward's room after that one. I think that door there was definitely going to close, although I was getting on board with that very shortly, because that was opportunism at its finest, until it all went wrong. But the Zane right now, somehow, some way finding a way to survive. It's strapped by Glass Tip Racing, as Ben Woodgate dives up the inside there and immediately takes that place overall off of him. And well, goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, what a moment that was. As meanwhile, pit stop there for Martin Kenyon. So Kenyon decides to come in from what was at the time at 20th place as he makes his way down pit road. He has to make his way through the pit lane chicane as well, which is there to slow cars down on pit entry. And behind him, Benjamin Massey and Eddie Fearbold. They're all coming in. And I do wonder whether they're coming in because they've got some damage on their cars and they want to get it fast repaired as well. Of course, we do have a fast repair in Superstars that we do not have in Masters Split. That's where the key difference is between the 2 splits. Masters are much more hardcore experience. But meanwhile, we do see it Nils Bauckhage on the inside in towards the Larman box. Bobby Moss there went to turn in and found a Lamborghini there. He's not too happy about it, and by being elbowed wide, he's actually cut the chicane to the point of picking up a slow down penalty. Understandably right now, as much as Bobby will feel inconvenienced by it, I think the team will be on the radio to him saying, remember who you're racing against. You're not racing pros as much as you want to, and Luke Van Gertel is your target, but also Sam Hockley and Mark Collicott are only 3.5 seconds away. There is Hockley, and you can see Collicott in the rear of the picture, bringing Adam Lynch and Brandon Dyer to the party with him. But Hockley right now, after what was a bit of a challenging qualifying session, he's found 3rd place in the Interclass so far. And his pace is similar to Bobby Moss when they're both on clear track, although Moss, his peak laps have been the quicker by comparison. Understandably, with that yellow flag forwards Bobby Moss, he has lost a lot of time. He's lost 2 seconds on that lap, and Hockley right now closing quite rapidly if he keeps this up. But further back, Max Dean and James Fraser, part 2 of their battle. We should have that huge moment, of course, where we did have the 3-way contact. But they managed to survive it somehow. And how exactly that went on, ladies and gentlemen, well, here's a quick replay to explain. It's definitely one where it made you hold onto your seat, and here's the replay to show you it. So this was coming out of the chicane. Fraser got a poor run out the chicane, and then there was Max Dean who went to the outside. But in the middle, well, that was an attempted move there by none other than the machinery of our Inter driver Alfred Kirsten, trying to squeeze his way in. It didn't quite work out, but this is what it looked like on board from Alfred Kirsten's perspective as he made his way through the corners. And well, in fact, this is a little bit earlier on than that, so I think we've gone a bit too far back in our replay. But the technical glitch there, we do apologise. We're going to try it again with that. And here we go. This is what did actually happen. And so Alfred Kirsten got the best run of the 3 of them, saw the door was open, came in interestingly, that's a very hard one to call when you look at it from Kirsten's on-board perspective, because it looks as though he was squeezed by both cars. Now, 3 wide for Butter is not recommended. We've got to be 100% clear on that. But it did look as though both club drivers there sort of came across each other, not realising they had a third car that was putting itself in the middle. I wouldn't want to be in the stewards room about that one. That's a very hard one, as we then did see, of course, Brandon Dye just diving up the inside immediately on Kirsten and saying to him, right, I'm taking that place off you, no ifs, no buts, as we make our way back to live racing. And as we do, ladies and gentlemen, well, goodness me, what a race it's been thus far. There's still plenty more to come, no doubt about it. And as all these drivers continue to war their way onwards, well, Adam Lynch, your club leader, yet to relinquish track position, yet to come into the pit lane. Brandon Dye behind him, very rapidly moving forwards. And right now picking up more places as he goes. And well, I'm always getting Brandon Dye and Ben Woodgate mixed up with each other. It's Ben Woodgate who dived up the inside of what James Fraser in that replay, not Brandon Dye. I'll get it right eventually. And the Altitude 3M Esports driver right now side by side with Lynch into that braking zone. And well, that's going to be an overall position gained just like that. But meanwhile, we have a black flag for Max Dean. That will be for instant points most likely. So the priority in the 192 now has a drive-through penalty that will need to be served within the next 3 laps after this one. So that's going to hurt him quite considerably. And that's going to put him out of the fight with Rob Gregg without a doubt. Actually, Chuck Smith will be catching up to that. He's not too far behind. Thomas Weston there as well, actually Coupland. So the Ash sheets together and bringing a Weston along for the ride. But we're the pit stops playing out at the moment. We had a couple of early pit stops, just now being one, who's come up behind Benjamin Massey. And now with both cars repaired, they've gone through the pit lane for a fast repair. And we see both drivers come alive once again. So they've definitely had a bit of drama thus far. They won't want that drama to continue if they can help it. Now, speaking of some drama as well, here is Adam Smith under pressure from Alfred Kirsten, who's closed up to him. And Smith's had an incident recently, which we'll have to get a replay of when we can, but not before we see this battle play out as a sim strap by Glass Tech Racing Machine. Right now, trying to look for a move, and no way through there for Alfred Kirsten on Smith. He's trying to go around the outside and switch back at turn number 8. Gets a better run here as they make their way towards turn number 10, into the braking zone. And in the end, Adam Smith goes to the pit lane. He decides he doesn't want to fight, and therefore Alfred Kirsten will carry on. Smith comes in. Smart call there, and by doing that, when he essentially forced Kirsten to have to reveal his hand of whether he's going to pit or not. That's one of the things as well. The final corner and the pit lane entry are literally side by side to each other, and you have to go through the braking zone of the final corner for pit lane entry. But put that aside, Dwayne Hoffman goes to the switchback here versus Christopher Petty as he tries to take the place back. Petty outran him in towards turn number 1 and towards that braking zone for fourth place on the road in club. But Dwayne Hoffman right now trying to come back at him as we ride aboard the front bumper of the 142 FTBM car, and he comes on out. Well, this Lamborghini and the Porsche both looking very quick in their own regards. The Lamborghini, of course, having the pace on what has been the medium speed corners, and also those corner exits. The Porsche meanwhile having the speed on the brakes and in the chicanes. And what stop and change between them as they weave their way through the middle chicane once again, the Kleiner chicane. Now going over the rise and down through Butter Bend. You see that gap is starting to open in the favour of Petty to half a second. Through that braking zone just in front there, that is going to be the almost lap down Audi of Martin Brandon, that has pitted now twice. Of course, it did start from the pit lane, so therefore it added the pit stop onto its own race, although he has made one only stop, and that was on lap number 16, so he's taken strategy out the window, and Martin Brandon at this point is all about just seeing if he can make up the time. But back to the front of the field here, let's not forget about our leader, and that's Leon Seeley, who has a 5-second lead overall ahead of Luke Van Goertel at the moment. And well, he's not quite matched Van Goertel for the fastest lap race that surpassed him. It's still the fastest lap in the hands of the Inter driver by 200ths to the nearest 100th. But Leon Seeley looking very much in control and starting to set some purple sectors out there. His sector 1 this lap has been purple. His sector 3 has been a personal best. So if he can nail this final sector, something tells me, given how light the car's becoming, he might be trying to take that fastest lap back. If he's able to achieve it, will be a huge amount. As we do see Van Goertel just briefly appearing in the camera shot. We'll follow Seeley here towards the timeline to see what he's going to do. What's the answer going to be? Can he find the fastest lap of the race this time around? And the answer is going to be for the Samantha Town racing driver. No, yes, it is. It takes a long time to come up there. We do apologise, jumping the gun a little bit, but what was a 26.799, and well, a very impressive lap there. 1.3 seconds quicker than Luke Van Goertel's Inter fastest lap. So it's now a fastest lap in the hands of a pro driver. As meanwhile, we look to Steve Hughes battling with Adrian Howard for overall 16th place. Right now, both drivers here, they've made a lot of ground since the start of the race. For Adrian Howard, 15 places made from 31st to 16th. Steve Hughes, 12 places made from 29th to 17th. Both of them as well, 5 places gained in Inter for Howard to move to 5th in class. For Hughes, 4 places gained from 6th in club to 2nd. but we have the conundrum of strategy in amongst our midst as well. As we do reach the halfway point of this race, as they cross the timeline, we are on to lap 21 for them. 30 minutes and a final lap to go. And right now, still plenty of the show on the cards, no doubt about it. But strategy is increasingly becoming now the operative word. Jack Giles is on the back of Hughes once again and getting ready to attack. Now, for the Eurotitans endurance driver, given the fuel tank is starting to get a little bit low, I suspect the thought process is going to be, when do they bring him? Do they bring him in sooner rather than later because of the risk of him being caught up behind the three-wheeler racing UK sim racing driver? So that would be a bit of a worry. Meanwhile, we look to a distant camera view, and that is Dwayne Hoffman still chasing after Christopher Petty as they come up through the run of Canal Bocht. Getting ready for Lucian Bianchi Bocht here. And right now, Dwayne Hoffman close, back within 3 tenths of Petty after Petty did clear him quite quickly. As outside my contact booth window, I hear the roar of a V8 Mercedes. It's Leighton Austin who's just come in off camera. And well, he's decided to give up track position early to the rest of his pro peers. So I think Olympus Racing have got a game plan to see what the plan is exactly. But Hoffman right now can't quite find a way to attack Petty, but he's still clear of James Fraser by 9 tenths of a second as they make the way up through the chicane. As the drivers weave and wind the way through. Well, meanwhile, Steve Hughes still keeping what is a very comfortable position, albeit that is Ross Young behind him and Jack Giles ahead there. So we'll have to wait and see how they all play out, but definitely a bit of a change. And in fact, I believe Steve Hughes has lost the place to Jack Giles. How's that happened? Here's a replay. So this was heading down towards the chicane, into the braking zone they went, and what happened to Steve Hughes? Took a lot of curve there, bounced the car into the air, and Jack Giles in the end just simply went around the outside to get the inside in towards turn number 6. A classic move there, and Jack Giles coming through just like that. But as we come back to live racing, and we do see there, Mark Kent's just come back to tune into the stream. 100% Mark. Dwayne Hoffman is not hanging about today. He has definitely right now got an appointment to make, and that appointment is a top 5 if he can help himself to it, because he's had quite a miserable run of rounds quite recently, with technical issues definitely abounding. But right now he is flying out there. But remember, this is 5th place on the road. Strategically, we believe he may be at 6th or 7th at the moment. But let's wait and see how the American driver gets on here, because right now he's definitely putting on a very strong performance. And remember, he did not qualify because of a technical issue with the car, and he worked on getting it resolved. And now that Lamborghini is all going well so far, and hopefully whatever band-aid they've stuck on it, it sticks all the way to the very end here, as that's going to be a lap going down from Martin Brandon. As meanwhile, Dwayne Hoffman's going to have a run here for Butta Bend versus Petty. Petty defending to the inside into Talam and Bocht, but in the end Dwayne Hoffman beats him into the braking zone, but goes too deep, cuts the chicane, and that's going to cost him so much time in the process. Well, he's got to slow down here. The thing is, he can serve it by the time he gets up to turn 8. He has got some time before he does get to Boulder Beharshbill Bocht in order to be able to do it. Can he burn it under braking? If so, well, he's going to have very cheekily gained a place there. And, well, if Christopher Petty figures that one out, he might be keen to say, well, that's overtaken off track, surely. Still, for Dwayne Hoffman, he's made it work at least for now on circuit. And that's now up into 4th place in the club class. So Hoffman having to do things a bit unconventionally, but still, it's all part of the method. Makes way onwards. Well, he's going to be giving the place back there to Christopher Petty, and I think deciding, given how he took it, he wants to give the place fairly back, and good on Dwayne Hoffman for doing so. And indeed, he is a very fair racer out there, and that's why we didn't say anything until he did, because we thought he might give the place back. And the 142 driver immediately saying to Christopher Petty, no, I'll do it the right way. I don't want to do it the unfair way. As Ashley Koopman, meanwhile, who has pitted already, but there was not a strategic stop. That was a pit stop in the open lap due to damage to the car. He's going to come back the inside of Petty, and immediately Dwayne Hoffman will go back on the attack here. So in the end, or Hoffman not being silly, he realised he can give the place back, but also he can give Petty an even bigger problem, which is the pro drive trying to pick his way through. Now will Hoffman go for it this time? Flash of the headlights there. I think that's to say I'm not going for a move. So stay as they were. James Fraser just watches on. But as they head onwards, and right now, Mark Kent having the same thought process as us here in the commentary booth about Hoffman giving the place back. Well, Jack Giles and Steve Hughes are both back together here as they head down towards turn number 10. And we see Hughes on the back of Giles after his mistake at the chicane. So he gave up that 2nd place in club to Giles, but right now he wants it back, understandably. But also, we've had a bit of drama for Leighton Austin, who pitted on lap 21 as Ben Woodgate's just come into the pit lane. And what exactly has happened to Leighton Austin? Here's a replay to explain. So this was the man who pitted from 5th place overall only moments ago, made his way down towards the turn 10 chicane, and as he did so, what exactly did he get wrong? And in the end, he's just come into the pits. In fact, that I think is a bit of a glitch on our time tower, ladies and gents. We do apologise for that. It does seem as though our information is not always correct. So Leighton Austin just coming to the pit lane there. So we'll have to ignore that. We thought he was involved in the incident, but not quite so. Just coming to the pits, serve that pit stop as we mentioned earlier on. But meanwhile, Jack Giles and Steve Hughes together right now, nose to tail. Ross Young there, we come back to your live racing. They are on the back of the lap down car, or soon to be lap down car, of Jordan Butler. Now, Butler has pitted, he's taken a strategic stop on lap 20, but the problem is right now he's been put a lap down by several drivers. Oh my goodness, he jumps into the air there, coming through the chicane, and Jordan Butler in comes back to terra firma, but that's one way to obey a blue flag, and not the way you want to do it necessarily. You don't want to go into two wheels to do it. The full tilt virtual motorsport driver, when Ian gets it back down to the earth, but he's definitely had a challenging day here at Circuit Zolder, and all the challenges just keep on coming, it would seem. Well, thankfully he keeps it to the ground for the rest of this lap, because right now I think that's a bit of a scary one for the whole team. But meanwhile, as he carries on, there's still 24 minutes left on the clock and a final lap to go, and we look back up to Corey Price. Now Price was the back of none other than what is Raz Harper, 3 seconds behind him, but only 8 tenths ahead of Joris Peters-Veem, who's had to try and run out wide there in the rear of the picture, and that was Justin Noel taking a bit of a trip to the weeds. So Noel making a mistake. He's a lap down in this group. But he's not going to get involved in the battling anytime soon, as he tries to come left and right. And well, meanwhile, Ross Young into the pit lane as I count my commentary window. Some more pit stops occurring, but very gradually are they occurring for drivers further up the order. So most drivers inside the top 20 do not want to come in, and the only exception has really been Leighton Austin and now Ross Young. Otherwise, everyone else wants to stay out there and try to hold on to track position for as long as they can and confirm it, essentially. Whereas those pitting are those who are wishing to gamble with time. I've got nothing to lose by default. Thomas Weston, meanwhile, here you can see the priority in the Union Jack Aston Martin. And he follows after Rob Gregg for 24th place overall. Ross Young lead in the pit lane. Weston pitting on lap number 1. So therefore, because he started from the pit lane, he is expected to come into the pit lane once again in order to be able to take on the fuel he needs to get to the end of the race unscathed. So as he looks to remove on Rob Gregg, Gregg right now will also be aware of the fact they are both yet to take a pit stop. And therefore, for Weston, as much as he wants to try and push his way past the club driver, he's going to think about, as an inter-driver, what is best to do here. Because, of course, whatever place he makes now, he's going to lose time in doing so. Further back, Ben Woodgate, well, he's on the back of Ross Young. Remember, these two drivers trying to recover in this race, as we do see Raz Harper. And to make a bit of a forceful move there up the inside of Martin Kenyon, does so. Right now, Kenyon's got his teammate trying to go around the outside of him, so that's going to be Young on the outside to the inside alarm block. Kenyon on the outside as they make the way through left into right from our camera, but right into left from their perspective. And Kenyon side by side with Woodgate, comes back on the road. Woodgate joins him, and they go 3 wide for a brief moment, as that's going to be. So drives on the lead lap, surviving it there. Corey Price getting through Raz Harper as well. And well, that's definitely a scramble there that nobody wants to be a part of. And I think Kenyon just been caught out a little bit through the chicane, and unfortunately him and Woodgate coming to blows. But as they calm things down for a brief moment, Jack Giles and James Fraser are both into the pit lane. So they've decided enough's enough. Giles has come in from second place in the club class. There he is, making his way on down. In fact, he's already leaving the pit lane. That's how long he's been in the pits already. Meanwhile, Fraser is just coming down pit lane now to head to his stopping point. But where's this going to put Giles, I hear you ask? Well, he comes out. Rob Gregg's gone past. Where is Ross Young? Where's Martin Kenyon? Here is Ross Young. So Giles will come out safely in 24th place. He's got plenty of clear track in front of him, and that is 6th place in club at the moment, but this will be to contest 2nd place in club versus Steve Hughes. Meanwhile, we've got Leon Seeley into the pit lane at the end of lap number 26. So it's Levin Gertel, so it's Richard Simnor. Joris Peters-Veem goes another lap, but the problem he's got is he's found traffic in front of him, and he's going to be trying to put a lap on Martin Kenyon. But the problem is right now that given how close this circuit is and how tight it is, well, the blue flag rules don't require the lap down driver or driver going the lap down to get off the race line. You, as the lead lap driver, need to make the pass happen, and it's the responsibility of the lap down driver to facilitate it. So therefore, they're expected to drive for predictably. You essentially have to overtake them. The only thing is they don't fight back compared to when you overtake a driver who you're battling with. So Peters-Veem will lose more time here as Nils Bauckhage, meanwhile, also having to carve his way through. This is not an easy situation for the MJB Points. Right, indeed, it's not an easy situation for any of them right now. Samuel Hockley leaves the pit lane, and the priority comes back out in 5th place in Inter for now. But remember, several drivers have yet to pit in the Interclass, including none other than Adrian Howard and also Mark Collicott and Bobby Moss. Now, we think that Moss is too far away. Collicott might be just within reach of Hockley. We'll have to see whether this is going to be an attempt at a podium again. but Joris Petersveem is in, so is Nils Bauckhage. They're all in now. The fuel tanks are going as long as they can, and we are coming towards the end of strategic season in this race, ladies and gentlemen. Dwayne Hoffman serves his pit stop. Car up on the jacks there, so in the end it is going to be a quick pit stop, 13 seconds in total. Car comes down, and well, I think they're finishing off the fuel. They've just changed one tyre on that car, I suspect, perhaps two, and right now he makes his way back out. But where does he emerge? James Fraser heads down the start-finish straight, so I think Hoffman is going to be safe here for 6th place in class. He gets up to speed coming out to turn 1 in the pit lane, that is, and now we look to see where Fraser's going to be. There is Fraser, there is Hoffman, so Hoffman 6th place in club class currently, and I do believe that is going to be his confirmed position, because Rob Gregg is the only club driver beyond Steve Hughes yet to pit. Adam Lynch has pitted. He's behind Rob Gregg at the moment, but I don't think for much longer. So Hoffman right now 6th in class, but James Fraser is there, and Christopher Petty as well. In fact, Petty has just come out ahead of Fraser, literally by 2 tenths. And so Fraser immediately with the warmer tyres going on the attack, but Christopher Petty's going to be safe at least for now. Hughes is being serviced. We'll have to see where he is. There is Carpen Jacks. Where is Adam Lynch? As Rob Gregg's come in, well, here is your previous club leader and club championship leader as well. And as he makes one down, he's on course to retake the lead. He does so, and could Adam Lynch now be 19 minutes away, plus a final lap from becoming our first repeat winner in the club class of this season? Something definitely says it's looking that way. But as he heads on through, where is Jack Giles? Here he is. Where's Steve Hughes? There he is. So Hughes right now hits the pit limiter line. Giles is going to be well clear for 2nd place. Steve Hughes comes back out then in 3rd in the class. He'll be very safe from Eddie Fearbold. He's just coming into turn 1 now. So it's Lynch, Giles and Hughes are your top 3 in the club class. As meanwhile, behind them, well, where's Rob Gregg going to fit in? Well, he's not going to be anywhere near Dwayne Hoffman. He's just going back into the pit lane now. There's Dwayne Hoffman, James Fraser and Christopher Petty behind. Well, the good news for Rob Gregg, if you're a fan of the Moonshiners Racing Club 123 driver, is as he leaves the pit limiter line here, he's going to be about 7 seconds behind the fight for 5th place in the club class. But if they all continue to fight and Dwayne Hoffman has to really go wide as a car, well, they'll then find themselves having Rob Gregg join the party, as James Fraser went so wide there at turn number 2. I thought he was going to end up in the gravel trap, but not quite so. Adrian Howard's in as he comes in for what will be the final stop. He's gone the longest of everybody. Ashley Coulton does the same, but do remember that Ashley Coulton had a pit stop on the open lap for repair work, and he most likely will have put some fuel back in the car for the formation lap and also the open lap that he burned. So therefore that's why he was able to just go that little bit longer. But pit stops are done now, so we'll see where all the field fits back together. And the strategic jigsaw puzzle has definitely been completed. We've got all the pieces. But as we do see Fraser on the attack. And we ride aboard the dashboard here of your 139 driver as Hoffman's a little bit wide coming out to turn number 7. And Fraser is definitely building the confidence here to look for a potential move. Will he go for it in towards the hairpin? He's going to go from that far back. My good Lord! James Fraser just throws the car up the inside. And well, Hoffman in the end takes the outside line and holds on to it. But James Fraser there, that was from a completely different postcode. I know they're both based on different sides of the world, but goodness me, that was a move and a half there. And Fraser looks up the inside again here in towards turn number 10. The Moonshiners Racing Club driver, he is absolutely bold and brave as brass, that man, as he makes his way down towards turn number 1. And right now, I think Dwayne Hoffman's going to be wondering, how on earth is he going from that far back? Well, the problem they've now got is the fact they've got the race leader overall coming on through. As you can see there, Christopher Petty immediately letting Leon Seeley go into Erster Bend. But right now, I think James Fraser wants to get this move done before Seeley's on the back of him. And Leon Seeley does have a 7-second gap to Luke Van Gertel, so he'll be safe for some time if he gets caught up in this. But of course, he'll need to tread carefully. You need to have 2 drivers of the same class fighting in front of you. You want to get a lap on them. But of course, right now, the attacking driver perhaps doesn't want to let it go. Albeit, as we do see there, Fraser does pull over to the side, off racing line, and just lifts off the throttle very slightly and lets Leon Seeley through there. So Fraser deciding to be patient, and that's absolutely fair. To be fair, he's a patient driver when he needs to be, and he can now regroup and go hunting after Hoffman, who will have to let Seeley go in due course. As Leon Seeley gets ready to make a move on the full tilt virtual motorsport driver, who needs to be a little bit closer than that if he wants to do so. Hoffman will not be backing off immediately with the risk of essentially being attacked by his fellow club peers. Going up the hill through the sweeper. Well, there we can see it right now. Seeley close enough at this point. You think he'll be going up the inside. If not here, then it will definitely be in towards the chicane at turn number 10. And well, Hoffman right now, I think, just trying not to get in the way. And there he goes as he pulls over. And at this point, he'll be about 90% throttle. And Seeley will just gradually outpace him to the braking zone. But leaving them behind for a moment, we've got a fight for 5th place in the Interclass. It's Ross Young versus Adrian Howard as we ride on board, looking down over the front of the 228 Scotsman's Clarkson James with DXT McLaren. And we're getting a better run there coming out of Lucien Bianchi box. And this is going to be an attempt around the outside in towards the corner chicane. Does he go for it or does he back off? He does go for it, does Young. He tries to go around the outside here. And when he's got to straight line the corner, in fact, no, he will not. He actually keeps having track limits as well. Credit to Ross Young. He went for a move that definitely many would say you're never going to be able to do. And it was proven to be an incorrect move. But at the same time as well, he didn't break track limits at all when Adrian Howard just kept his elbows out enough there. Fair racing. But right now, Young's had an absolute lightning run through what is the time box chicane. And we gave you the exterior view to show you just what speed he's carrying. And now back on board here. And Young looking for that opportunity. And if he can take this 5th place in the Interclass, it'd definitely be a very happy result for him. As he comes down through that right hand. Of course, remembering the fact in our season open at the Hockenheimring, it was meant to be a 1-2-3 Scotsman in the Interclass, but Ross Young had it all go wrong literally on the last laps. Right now, he's trying to definitely get things to go right here today, but he's still got a bit of work to do to chisel away at the defence of Adrian Howard. But I suspect it's going to be a question of when, not if he'll be going for another move with the time we've got remaining as we head into the final quarter. As he heads down towards turn number 1, building up all their speed in the McLaren. Well, meanwhile, we do have what is a slowdown penalty for Corey Price. He is the Darkwing Racing driver as he heads down towards turn number 8. And as he does, Raz Harper there in the wings getting ready to pounce on him. Of course, they do have 5 seconds before they do get to Richard Simnor, so they haven't got a chance to catch up to him at least at the moment. But Harper, I think, will definitely be itching for an opportunity to attack as much as possible for DDK with RaceStatBot.com. And team principal Davey Daniels will definitely be watching this right now and cheering him on. Make the way out to the chicane. Leighton Austin is there or thereabouts, and to give credit where it's due to Leighton Austin, he bit on that 21. He went for the undercut. It hasn't worked out quite the way he wanted it to. He has lost him a place. He dropped from 5th overall to 6th overall as a result of it, but he's still with this group, and right now still being very patient about it. So a relentless racing driver, at this point you can understand, as much as it's not worked out in strategy, he's still exactly where he wants to be fighting. I think his target today will be to take 3rd place in Pro if he can, off of Price and Harper. Do that, it definitely will be a huge rebound result after difficulties of Brands Hatch. He's got 2 places to make here as Harper runs a little bit wide coming out to turn number 4. Right now, Austin might be able to outrun his fellow V8 rival, though he's not going to risk it into the chicane. Instead, he's going to wait. I think a smart move there, waiting really being the key. But Ashley Coupland, he's on the back of Steve Hughes. He's fighting with Hughes for full place in, well, not full place in club, 22nd place overall, we should say. And Hughes is the full place club driver. And intriguingly, Hughes has actually lost out with regards to 3rd place in the club class to Eddie Theobald. Now, how exactly has that happened, I hear you ask? Here's a quick replay to explain. So this was coming down in towards the chicane, and it was Theobald all over the back of Hughes, went up the inside there, and well, 2 wide they went in, 2 wide they exited. It took the run down towards Erster Bend to get the move done for Eddie Theobald, and well, in the end he was able to outpace the Porsche driver just about before they got to that braking zone. As they came in, Theobald getting that move done for 3rd place, at least for now, in the club class. We return to your live racing. Well, whilst we've been away at looking at that, actually Coupland and Benjamin Massey have both found their way past Steve Hughes. They've made that ground as we have a black flag for Ben Woodgate. So that's for instant points. So Woodgate, who's running 11th in Pro at the moment, 18th, or in fact 19th overall, he's going to be sent a lot further down the order. The Inter-Racing team driver today, he's definitely been all the fun and madness, but he's not having a happy day. As meanwhile, Ross Young passes Adrian Howard around the outside there through turn number 8, and that is due to a slowdown there for Adrian Howard. He was looking quicker than Howard in general, but he's been aided there by Howard having to lift and coast in towards the braking zone. Now, will the Daniel Newman race driver come back? He looks for it, but not quite. He's too far back to try and attack. So therefore, it's going to stay as it is for now. As they head down towards turn number 1, and we're now Ross Young trying to hold on to that 5th place in the Interclass, but Adrian Howard will be coming back as strong as he can. Meanwhile, the battle between Mark Collicott and Sam Hockley for 3rd in the Interclass. When it is Sam Hockley, we thought Hockley would be able to get within range, and then he has jumped Collicott in the pits. So Collicott into 4th place and into once again. But right now, Sam Hockley on course potentially for what would be another Inter podium. Those podiums do keep on coming for him. We look from them to Corey Price, and right now he's got a absolutely burgeoning queue of pro cars behind him as we show you the pro class standings. It's Price at the moment who's running 3rd in the class ahead of Raz Harper, Leighton Austin, and Joris Peterson's BMW now has joined the party. And they're all separated by somewhere between 5 to 6 tenths from car to car at the moment. Something says that Corey Price right now in a Lamborghini that's definitely been worked incredibly hard here today. Well, I think that pressure is definitely going to be building a bit more before all is said and done. And Joris Petersveem, remember how his day started, having to fight with practically everybody at the start of the race. And in the end, I'm amazed he's got any tyre life left in this BMW. But still, the excitement was flying then. And right now, I think he's building up to a bit more excitement here and now. As we've just had a major incident for Nils Bauckhage, who's had to tow to the pit lane. So we're going to leave this battle for a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen, and find exactly what's happened to the NJB Cornish driver from Germany. And here's a replay to explain. So as he made his way down towards turn number 1, into that braking zone, and the 331 driver known for his consistency, the rear of the car just sliding loose a bit, trying to counter steer it, went straight, and then going through what's the run of the pit lane exit. Oh, goodness me! And was there contact there with Ollie Smith's car? I'm not sure. I think he may have just got away with that, but goodness me, for Nils Bauckhage, that was a scary moment, and where to go to the pit lane and then left it behind. But thankfully, I think everyone okay with that, and therefore we return to your live racing. We're towed to the pits, and understandably a very scary moment there. I think it was only Bauckhage who got caught out in the end. As meanwhile, Ashley Coutland for Relentless Racing making a move there on Steve Hughes. So as he comes on through, chasing on to Benjamin Massey still. These two fighting over 10th place in the pro class, bound to weave their way between club and inter drives as they do. It's a bit of a difficult battle for them, no doubt about it. But as they come through the chicane, on that distant camera view there, you can see Eddie Fearbold. He's making his way over the rise and down through Bitter Bend at the moment, third in the club class. And still 2 seconds or so ahead of Steve Hughes, and looking safe at least for now. But as we do leave him be, coming through to Larman Box, we come back to Raz Harper. And right now he has got an increasingly threatening presence of Leighton Austin behind him. Of course, Corey Price just in front. He's lost out to Corey Price quite recently. That gap now has almost doubled to a whole second. And Raz Harper's gap to Leighton Austin has been slashed down a little bit to 4/10 on average. So therefore the pressure is building little by little, lap by lap. Whereas Petersveem still right at the back of the group. You can see him now off in the distance in the camera. And also, to be fair, Ashley Shucksmith. But albeit Shucksmith is a lap down. And therefore just watching on as Harper has cut the curb there at turn number 7. He's going to have to give that time back. It will be about 8/10 of a second he's going to have to give up here. He's got to be a bit tactical about how he does this to make sure he does not lose out. Burns it immediately. And then you can see Austin decides, right, I know what he's doing. I'm going to go for it around the outside. So Leighton Austin goes on the attack. It doesn't quite work out, but Harper's still got a bit more of the slowdown to burn. He's probably got about 1/10 of it left. And as they head down towards turn at number 10, right next to burn it soon, going very defensive there whilst burning it. Austin's going to look round outside to inside, and once they both come on the corner, he's going to squeeze Austin as much as possible. And Leighton Austin there, the car jinks sideways, a bit of oversteer on that curb, and as a result, it now brings Joris Petersveem in. Veem looking to the outside, trying to get the natural racing line for Erster Ben, but Leighton Austin dies at the inside, taps Harper in the rear. They make contact, and Joris Petersveem gains 2 places for the price of 2 drivers coming together. And well, that was as smooth as you'd like for Petersveem, but not so for Harper, nor for Leighton Austin. But Austin unfortunately coming into the back of Harper there, and well, that's brought Daniel Page ahead of him. Bobby Moss has also squeezed on through, and right now as they try to get it back together, well, definitely a bit of a contentious moment, but this is exactly what happened between the pair, ladies and gentlemen, as Leighton Austin, I think, just got it a bit wrong. Now making the way down, understanding Austin had to defend here versus the BMW of Petersveem. Onto the brakes, he went straight into the back there, Raz Harper. There was no question about it. I think just missed his braking zone. I think Harper did brake a little bit earlier, but that was because he was on the tighter inside line into turn 1. You do need to brake about 20 metres earlier the tighter you go to the apex, and Leighton Austin being caught out by that. I think Finlay, he could carry the speed. Harper could not, however, in his heavier Ford Mustang, and Leighton Austin hit him on the back for making sure that Harper rejoined the racing before he did, not to gain an unfair advantage. Definitely both cars now in the wards. And hold up a second. We've had a major incident for our leader in the interclass. Luke van Goertel, ladies and gentlemen, I have just been informed, is in the pit lane. He is out of this race. Now, what exactly has happened? Because suddenly Bobby Moss has now just become your leader in the interclass with 7 minutes to go. Well, the good news is we can get a replay, but I don't think it's good news if you're an MJK Sim Racing fan. Here we go. So this was Van Goertel making his way into the chicane, and remember, he had no pressure on him in second place. Hit the curb, the rear of the car let go. Well, after that, oh, goodness me, and that was James Fraser going into the side of him. The 139 driver hitting him on the side, and Van Goertel at that point, that'd be a damaged suspension and damaged bodywork, and that's why he's had to tow to the pits at MJK Sim Racing. And that race for Luke van Goertel has gone from absolute brilliance to the nightmare at Circuit Zolder. You've got to feel for the MJK Sim Racing driver. That is how you lose wins in perhaps the saddest way possible. And right now, Bobby Moss, well, the SimRacing Collective Esports may not have told him yet, but they'll be telling him soon on the radio, Bobby, you are now leading in the interclass. Just get it home. And well, understandably, he'll find out later what exactly happens with Van Goertel. And I think whilst he might be happy, he won't be happy that he's gained it through his rival retiring. He would like to have battled him on the road, but sometimes that's the way it does go. As meanwhile, Ashley Koopman and Benjamin Massey still fighting over 10th place in Pro. And in fact, Koopman has got ahead, but now they have to fight their way past Eddie Fearbold, who's trying to hold on to 17th overall, 3rd in club. Steve Hughes is only 3 seconds behind this, so he may have a role to play soon. Means him in the rear of the picture. But Koopman right now trying to go around the outside of Fearbold. Massey on the inside, right aboard the front bumper camera of the 353 Inox Motorsport Mercedes AMG Evo 2020. Well, right now, for Massey, it's not coming forth as much as he'd like to make a move. He's staying close to thereabouts. Fearbold, well, I think right now he wants to enjoy the battling with them, given the fact he's got no risk of really falling into the clutches. But whilst all this is playing out, meanwhile, at the very front of the club field, it's looking very safe for Lynch as it is for Charles. As we see Eddie Fearbold cutting over the second curb of the Kleiner chicane. He's going to give up both places there overall to Koopman and Massey. He's got no right to defend it anymore with the slowdown penalty he's awarded himself. But meanwhile, Raz Harper still fighting with Brandon Dyer, the DDKRaceStatBot.com driver, after what was the woe that beset out. Now, as they do, we do apologise, ladies and gentlemen. We have had just a brief interruption to the broadcast there. That's something completely outside of our control. That's between what is YouTube and the client that's broadcasting it out. But we have now got the broadcast back there. All you've missed is a bit of action of Brandon Dyer fighting side by side with Raz Harper. They're still going, however. And, well, Dyer now looking outside to inside here from Butter in towards the braking zone for Alarm box. And just like that, he does get it done. So Brandon Dyer up another place now. And the LT3 Esports driver into 6th place in the Pro Class, where he started today. And well, as Raz Harper tries to come back, then Dyer's going to go as defensive as humanly possible. On to brakes with 4 minutes to go. And where's he going to hold that line? Yes, he is. And Brandon Dyer for Altitude Frame Esports just keeping it absolutely pinned. But Harper is still there or thereabouts. And I'll tell you one thing, he seems to be one of those drivers who needs what is a character chase rather than a stick knocking him. And right now, the 312 driver from the United Kingdom, well, he may have had a big hit to the rear of the car. You can see the damage it's done with how unstable the car is coming out of the final chicane. He's not going to give up at all here as he stays nice and tight to the back of Dyer. He's going to make a move here in towards turn number 1. He thinks about it. He's going to go for it. But he's not quite going to get there in the end and goes to the gravel. And I think that battle is going to stop then and there. But goodness me, right now Raz Harper still throwing himself at this with abandon. And can you blame him for it? He wants those places back where he can. But meanwhile, we look to Rob Gregg just up the road as he closes on Ashley Sharksmith. So the fight for 7th place in the club class still to go, as we have a black flag for Alfred Kirsten for what will be instant points. The man who's 7th in interclass, he will be relinquishing that, and that's going to promote a couple of drivers behind him up positions, particularly for Martin Kenyon and Thomas Weston, we suspect. So therefore, they'll at least pick up some extra points. Looking to be this race has definitely had some bits of last-minute drama, no doubt about it. As Greg comes on through, right now still trying to face off against Shucksmith. Still got a bit of time to take if he's able to get that place. It's not going to be an easy job for him. Tries to push each other as much as they can. It's now over the rise and down. A front bumper missing there from somebody's car. Not quite sure who's lost the front bumper, but somebody has. We'll have to wait and see who exactly's lost that in due course. Tries coming through, and Alfred Kirsten into pit lane. And meanwhile, Leon Seeley's into the pits. Wait a minute, he's lost his rear wing. What's happened to Leon Seeley? I don't believe it. Sonny Richard Simnor takes the lead of this race. It's going to be a first win for Simnor at this rate, but he's only got 1 second between himself and Corey Price with 2 minutes to go. Well, it's another late twist of the tail, ladies and gentlemen. And as he makes way around, here's a quick replay of what happened to Leon Seeley. So this was Seeley at the time all over the back there of a Mercedes who was trying to put a lap on, and well, they got caught up together and there was contact. They sent Seeley to the barrier. I don't believe it. And well, in the end, Seeley being turned around just like that. And well, unfortunately for the Samantha Town racing driver, caught up there, not with Ollie Smith's car. We thought it might have been, but it was a different car for Simstrap by Glass Tech Racing. And I think that was Alfred Kirsten and Leon Seeley end up in woes. But we now come back to live racing. As we do, we believe that's Alfred Kirsten's car, but don't quote us on that, of course, ladies and gentlemen. gentlemen. I think it is now, the more we double check it. Well, we do see it was Richard Simnor. Well, whether he knows it or not, he is now on course. So what would be, if he stays where he is, it would be his third podium of the season. He's had 1 second, he's had 1 third. He's never had a first place, but right now he could make it happen here today. But lap 40 has seen him behind a lot of traffic. He's got 1 more lap to go as Richard Simnor, and Corey Price is closing down him excruciatingly quickly as he heads out to the final corner and comes to lap 41 of 41 today. Indeed, the clock won't allow for any more. Dwayne Hoffman immediately steps aside there. Hoffman right now very happy 5th place in the club class. Doesn't need to fight anymore. He can't catch up to Steve Hughes. He's safe as well for Christopher Petty behind. But Simnor right now needs every car that's in his way to get away as quickly as he can, because understandably he does not want Price getting any closer. Price is looking very threatening here as we look back from the rear of the DCW Racing Blue at 3-4-2. Joris Petersveen is 5.5 seconds off of this battle, so he's got no means of getting involved. He's just going to stay behind at the moment as they head down towards what will be the Kleiner chicane. And you can see there immediately they make their way past Adam Smith, who does not obstruct either driver as they weave the way up through the corner, heading up towards Butter Bend at the moment. And as they do, right now the 3-4-2 still holding on just about, but the clock is on 0. It means when he sees that finish line, the checkered flag will be awaiting him. But coming in towards Slumboch, you can see Price now closer than ever as we ride aboard the front bumper of the Darkwing Racing drive from the Netherlands. And right now pushing harder and harder. He's got nothing to lose. He's got a very light car at this point. We're going to stay with this battle all the way to the very end. And under braking here, Price getting close, but he's too far back to go for a lunge. He's going to go all or nothing here in towards the final chicane, if he can do so. But right now, for Richard Simnor, this is looking safe. This is looking in control. The DCW Racing Blue Drive's only got 2 apexes to make, 1 braking zone. He clears the left-hander. He comes to the right-hander as well. And you see Price there close, takes a lot of curb, but he drag races his way towards the line. For Richard Simnor, a first win, finally lands on his lap. It is victory for the DCW Racing Blue Drive over in Pro. Head of Corey Price, who serves the slowdown to fall to second ahead of Joris Petersveen, who completes the podium. Bobby Moss, meanwhile, comes on through. He's not going to believe it. He takes his first win of the season for the SimRacing Collective Esports in the Interclass ahead of Daniel Page, who's 5th. Brandon Dyer takes 6th place ahead of Raz Harper. And then it'll be Sam Hockley in the Chaps Motorsport Privateer McLaren, who's going to come through here for another podium, another 2nd place for 254 driver in the Interclass, ahead of Mark Collicott, who makes it a podium of his own today for DCW Racing Blue in the Interclass. What a drive from him. Now Brandy Setters to complete the top 10 just behind ahead of Leon Seeley, who recovers to 11th. And Adam Lynch makes himself the first repeat winner in the club class. The priority finally taking that 2nd win of the season that's escaped him for so long. Ross Young comes to line very shortly. He will finish home in a 13th place. And just behind the Clark St James Dexterous Motorsports drive, it'll be Jack Giles for Eurotyson Endurance, who makes it another club podium. It's been a time since he's had one of those, and the 157 drive will be ecstatic about that. Later on, the Sting comes home in 15th place ahead of Adrian Howard. There'll be Ashley Coutland, Benjamin Massey, and Eddie Theobald, who comes home in 3rd place in the club class, and will a further 1.5 tenths behind him, Steve Hughes, and their close battle to the very end. But Theobald makes it a 2nd podium in the road for this season, and just now will be the last driver to finish on the lead lap. The 315 driver comes on down here, and what a changing day it's been for him after an open lap which saw that Aston Martin more bruised and crumpled than looking smooth. But in, he hasn't given up, and to that effort he has made sure to finish on the lead lap, so he'll be absolutely pleased as punch with that. But it will be a 12th place in the pro class, and not too many points, but definitely the accolade of being on the lead lap just about. But goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, what an end to the race. You could not make it up when Leon Seeley had it all in his hands. An altercation between himself and Alfred Kirsten, and it all went wrong coming out to Lowenbach corner. And for Richard Simnor, well, he'll look back at this one, I think, and if we do interview him tonight, I suspect he's going to say something on the lines as though it'll be a shock to take the win, given he wasn't able to catch Leon Seeley. But sometimes that's the way it goes. The win comes to you when you least expect it, but he still had to keep this man, Corey Price, behind, and Price then through everything at the last couple of corners, picked up a slowdown coming out the final corner because of how much he cut the apex at what was at turn 10B, and if he had not served that slowdown as late as humanly possible, he would have essentially had that upgraded to a post-race time penalty, so Price does take that second place in Pro, and Joris Petersveen at third place in the ending class, and overall, I think he's going to think to himself, how on earth did I manage to get that back after how the race started? But as Adam Lynch enjoys... Oh, hold up a second, somebody's gone on their roof in the pit lane. I believe that's Jack Giles who's done that. How on earth has he managed to achieve that going into the pit lane? Well, we're going to see this with Adam Lynch behind. I think Adam pushed him into the pit lane there, given they were low on fuel, and as they did so... Oh, and well, both tries into the barrier there. Well, I think that's one way to celebrate being on the podium together, albeit Jack Giles celebrating so much he's ended up in his roof, and I think they'll both have a conversation about it afterwards. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we look back to live view, and we do take a look at those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. And after 60 minutes of a Circuit Zolder that's absolutely unrelenting in the test of consistency it requested from our drivers, round number 6 of our Superstar split for the SimRacing International Thursday GT3 Championship Season 12 saw Richard Simnor take his first win of the season, and with his third podium of the season as well. He's had a third, he's had a second, and now he's had a first, and DCW Racing Blue Dry achieving it 1.7 seconds ahead of Darkwing Racing's Corey Price, who remember was right in his rear bumper coming out the final corner, but a slowdown penalty meant he had to back off, and that's why he finished 1.7 seconds behind the reality, probably 3 tenths behind at most. The Darkwing Racing driver still, however, was 4 seconds clear of Joris Petersveen, the privateer, who in the end, despite all the batting, made a double Dutch podium and taken home third place in his BMW M4 Evo. Bobby Moss, a first Inter-win of the season, and he'll be absolutely ecstatic about that, and did a huge achievement today for the SimRacing Collective Esports driver, and a result which now caps off 3 podiums, not quite in a row, given the fact he missed out on the podium last time out, but it's been 2 seconds so far, and now he does take his first place finish. Then Daniel Page, 5th place there for Daniel Newman racing red, and well, he kept his head down every step of the way and was rewarded for it in the end with that 5th place. Head over Brandon Dyer for Altitude Frame Esports, who managed to recover to his way back into the top 5 of Pro. Raz Harper was just behind for DDK with RaceStatBot.com in a Ford Mustang that was wounded after his late contact with Leighton Austin, and Sam Hockley there, 2nd place in the Interclass, another podium for the privateer. He'll be absolutely pleased with it for Chaps Motorsport. Mark Collicott making it a double DCW Racing Blue podium today, albeit across 2 different classes, with Collicott taking that 3rd place in class there, not too far behind Hockley at the finish, and Bradley Setters completing the top 10 for Relentless Racing. Leon Seeley, in the end, after that late incident, having to finish 11th place there for Samantha Town Racing, and when will that first win come to the STR driver? We won't know, ladies and gentlemen. He had a golden opportunity to do it today, but it all fell apart with only laps to go. Adam Lynch becoming the first back-to-back Well, not back-to-back, I should say. The first repeat winner in the club class there, the privateer. Congratulations to him on that absolutely phenomenal performance. Nobody could touch him today. And splitting him from Jack Giles, the runner-up in the club class for Euro Titans Endurance, was Ross Young there in 13th place for Clark St James with Dexterous Motorsports. Leighton Austin took 15th place there for Relentless Racing, and a further 3 seconds behind him was Adrian Howard, who took a season best performance on a dry circuit. And Daniel Newman Racing Red driver enjoying a good set of battles, including with the pros of Ashley Kootman and Benjamin Massey behind, with Kootman getting the upper hand in their battle right towards the very end for 17th place. Eddie Theobald completed the club podium, another podium for the privateer. He'll be proud of that, just as Steve Hughes was only a 10th behind at the finish line. But the three-wheeler race from UK Sim Racing driver completed the top 20, and outside the top 20 in 21st place, it was just Nell, the final lead lap finisher. It was a lap down to Adam Smith as it was to Ben Woodgate, and Woodgate definitely having a very troubling day today. The Inter-Racing team driver finding a lot of incidents out there on the road, but to be fair, still got it home. He was ahead of Dwayne Hoffman, who completed the top 5 in the club class, a very well-deserved one, as he does say there in the YouTube chat. I am drenched in sweat, and he's worked incredibly hard, and nice work there from Dwayne. Indeed, his best driver of the season thus far, I would argue. And Martin Keenan in 25th place, just ahead of Christopher Petty, and then chased after Hoffman as much as possible, but couldn't catch him, and in the end had Ashley Shuck-Smith, Rob Gregg, and Jordan Butler not too far behind. Ollie Smith completed your top 30 ahead of Thomas Weston. Then we did see Martin Brandon and Alfred Kirsten completing those who were a lap down. James Fraser finished 2 laps down the end, and then sadly we did have several retirees, including perhaps the most notable one of them all, Luke Van Gertel, with that huge incident going through the Kleiner chicane, where he did have the contact with James Fraser in the end that saw him out to the pit lane and out of the race, being in such a controlling lead in the Interclass for MJK Sim Racing. And we also did see a late retirement for Nils Bauckhage, and also earlier on for Mikhail Abasek, Max Dean, and Charlie Walker. But looking into the individual classes, because this is where the points are made and paid, and here we see in Pro, firstly, there it is, that first win on the board, as Richard Sim on the YouTube chat says, well there, just breathing it all in, and the DCW Racing Blue Drive taking that win by 1.7 seconds over Corey Price of Darkwing Racing. Joris Peters Veem earned that podium the hard way. I think he'll be very proud of his achievements today. Just ahead of Daniel Page there, 9 seconds between the two of them, and then Daniel Newman at Racing Red Drive making sure to hold off Brandon Dyer to the very end, who completed the Pro Top 5 for Altitude Frame Esports. Raz Harper for DDK with RaceStatBot.com took 6th, knowing a podium was possible, but the Mustang did not have the pace to do it today, with its brakes definitely getting boiling hot, and Bradley Setters was not too far behind for Relentless Racing. Leon Seeley in the end had to take 8th instead of the win, and frustration will definitely be building there for the Samantha Town Racing driver, but still he's got to keep his head up high and think of the positives from today, which was he was the fastest driver out on circuit, but unfortunately that late instant cost him very dear. Leighton Austin, 9th there for Relentless Racing, just ahead of his teammate of Ashley Coupland. Then we did see Benjamin Massey finishing 2 seconds behind, best the rest in a length for Inox Motorsport. Justin Earl completed the top 12 on the lead lap, and it was a lap down to Ben Woodgate, and then 8 laps down as a retiree, Nils Bauckhage, and it was also an earlier retirement for Charlie Walker. Then to the interclass. And here we do see in our second of our classes, Bobby Moss, confirmation of his first win of the season for the SimRacing Collective Esports by 16.3 seconds over Sam Hockley, who are bringing home a valiant podium of his own. He was 5 seconds ahead of Mark Collicutt, who makes his first trip to the podium in some time for DCW Racing Blue, and Ross Young in 4th place there could not quite stay with him, falling back to 4th, but to be fair, still 8 seconds ahead of Adrian Howard. The Clarkson James with DXT Motorsports and Daniel Newman Racing Red Drives completed those on the lead lap. A lap down it was Adam Smith for Euro Titans Endurance ahead of Martin Kenyon. And then we did see Thomas Weston and Alfred Kirsten completing those a lap down and finishing the race. Because unfortunately, whilst he will be classified as a finisher, he will only take the points for 10th place. Luke Van Gertel for MJK Sim Racing, and Mikhail Abasek there, an early retiree in 11th for Inox Motorsport, a non-finisher. Then to the club class we go. And here we can see in the club class, Adam Lynch, the first repeat winner in the club class for this season. The first driver to take 2 wins in the class. And the privateer, 21.2 seconds clear of Jack Giles. He definitely was untouchable today. Still, the Euro Titans Endurance driver made sure he was untouchable in the fight for second ahead of Eddie Fearbold, with the privateer getting the upper hand on Steve Hughes based on strategy. And whilst Hughes had the late race pace, Fearbold had enough in the bag to be able to stay ahead. They finished only a 10th apart, and then it was a lap down behind the freewheeler with UK Sim Racing drive for Dwayne Hoffman. But to be fair, he started for 13th place. He's fought his way to 5th, so he'll be absolutely pleased as punch with that for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsports. Then we did have a lap down as well for Christopher Petty and Ashley Shucksmith, and also there for Rob Gregg for Moonshiners Racing Club. John Butler took 9th place for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport ahead of Ollie Smith, who completed the class top 10. And behind the Simstrap by Gloucester Racing drivers, Martin Brandon for Axis and Sport with Simworks. 2 laps down, unfortunately, for James Fraser for Moonshiners Racing Club, with that late contact between himself and none other than Luke Van Gertel. And then we did see the only retiree in the class, Max Dean there, the privateer, having a good start, but the race went backwards midway through. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes your rundown of the results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And I suspect there may be some, but don't worry, we're not done with this broadcast yet, because coming up in approximately what will be about 5 minutes' time will be our post-round interviews with our selected drivers. So don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss what our drivers have got to say about the racing today at everyone's second favourite Belgian circuit, of course, Circuit Zolder. And it's lights out and away we go for our season opener as Sardply gets a good start, but look alongside him and you'll see there Milton Tomlinson-Dennis immediately going the attack into the braking zone. 1 drive into the grass already, that's Mikey Story, but 3 wide they come into the opening corner. That's a bold move there. William Humphrey makes the place as they make the way through in towards turn number 2. I think the Altitude 3M Esports driver here might just be fancying his chances once again as they come into the braking zone now for turn number 1, and as they make the way from right into left, well, Hayden Miller here side by side with him. They'll go all the way through to turn number 3, and Saunders does take the place there. That's for overall position, not for pro position. Saunders is the pro leader, but he goes a bit deep there in 3 to the inside of 4 then, and Miller right now enjoying this. Saunders enjoying it. A little bit of rub and contact between the two of them, but nothing wrong with a bit of bump and grind between the two Ford, for the Ford and the Corvette, the 2 Americans I should say. And
with those 2 Evo drivers in front of them, they're just, you know, they're realistically in a completely different race. They're just a barrier up towards the likes of Rubino and Wendell. Oh, there's Rubino going off the road, and here comes James Bostock, past 1, past 2. This is a great little move from James.
Oh, and look behind him as well. Hardiak, up high, he decides to come back down low. But Denny Plurger has really lost a lot of ground here. He's lost 7 places since the start of this race in that green Porsche. It is, but look at this for the lead. Hammond wants it. He's gone back down the inside. He got off the brakes again to let the car down the inside of Rob Mackay. And you said Rob was going to be clinging on at the front. And now he's clinging on to second. Great move by Lewis Hammond. Really good committed stuff. And look, down the inside, Richard White. He wants a piece of this in the Porsche. He's got James Bostock.
And it's lights out and away we go here as Mirko Bortolotti goes exactly on the green, and as they roar the way down towards turn number 1, Martin Statman side by side with him, but look behind, Tim Perry under pressure, Miguel Leon immediately as the Enosis Esports driver tries to put the pressure on. Further back we've got 3, 4 wide, they're all in the crush as they come through the opening bay. Look back for the rear of your second place runner, Statman, and Statman right now for the Gazex Racer team. What he's trying to do here, I think now, is just hold on to second, and if needed, he may have that to a bit of a buffer and perhaps sacrifice a little bit of his race for the race leader here. Although Bortolotti, to be fair, I think might be holding some pace back, but here comes Lux in the tow, in towards what we roller coaster they come with the Virginian corkscrew. It's left into right very quickly here as they both make the way, and it's too wide on entry, but Lux gets ahead. It's up into second now, as it will be Martin Statman falling down to third, but Callum Lux does clear another one, and now only one car is between him and an opportunity of victory here tonight. Which is Perry going to make the move, or I'm going to have to make the move for him? Well, there's your answer. Perry's going to go on the inside here of Dean into the braking zone. Edwards gets to watch it from the popcorn seat view. Perry there being too wide on exit. Dean's going to try and hang around the outside. Does Edwards think about going up the inside as well? He gets himself ready for it in case there's contact, but there's not. Perry there being fair. Dean tucks back in behind. Lovely move there from Tim Perry. And I think meanwhile Beardsworth will hope they don't get close up in time as Beardsworth's going to look up the inside. He goes all in, and it's from very far back. He gets it stopped, however, and Beardsworth there nails the move, but Tillerson's going to come back at him up the hill. Does he go in on the brakes here? This is bold to do it on the inside. No, he does not. And Brian Beardsworth at the end, he gets it wrong. He goes out wide at turn number 6. Tillerson's going to be too wide with him, but too wide they're going to turn 7. Tillerson goes to the switch back there. 9 is no way through, and in the end they come down towards turn number 8. Well, there Tillerson backs off. He lets Hutchinson go around the outside, but is it the right call? Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time to kick off our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. And who better to kick off our interviews with today than the man who took his first pro win? Because joining me now in the interview room is none other than Richard Simnor. Richard, good evening to you, and I bet you can't believe to hear the words, Richard Simnor, you are a pro class winner.
I am utterly surprised. I didn't know. Do you know what? I didn't know what was going on in front. All I could see was, well, Luke first. He went sideways. Don't know what happened there. Went past him. Then there was another car over a crest that I had to avoid, and then that was interesting. And then Leon, who had this race. I mean, he must be absolutely upset because, yeah, 10 seconds in front, had it in the bag. No one was going to challenge him pace-wise. And then I come around the corner, and he's sideways, and then he starts reversing, and I'm like, no, don't do that. Managed to avoid him, and it was on that awkward crest after that corner. I mean, I had a quick scan of the broadcast, and you know, it's hard to tell, but it does look like he caused that accident himself. I mean, I don't know what your opinion is, but I looked at it and I thought, yeah, okay, that's interesting. But yeah. I'm surprised. I'm really elated, to be honest. I was just chatting with Corey in the waiting room. I said to him, like, laps before that, I was looking down at my relative going, I really need to switch back on. I really need to switch back on because he's now 3 seconds, less than 3 seconds. I was thinking, oh my God, you know, I've got to really get the pace going. And then I don't think it was really in the car. So I just tried my best not to make the rear slide like I did early in the race, and just keep a consistent lap, and then just try not push the chicane too much. Yeah, I mean, hey, let's finish first. First you have to finish.
Oh, indeed. Very true. And I mean, whilst there will be obviously some analysis done by the stewards with regards to what happened to Leon Seeley and who was at the root cause of it, looking at something that was much more in your control, if you will, qualifying in fourth place over third in class, it looks like you put a really good qualifying lap together to be on the front row alongside Leon Seeley. And then in the last moments, you're demoted down to fourth place.
Hit the nail on the head. I thought I was safe in second. It didn't look like anybody was going any quicker than that. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh no, okay, that's bad, because I was trying lap after lap, but I was always getting, I was like coming out of the sector 2, coming into the hairpin. I was always like a tenth down. I knew I had about a tenth in that hairpin, so I was always coming out that hairpin about equal with my lap. But then I just I couldn't get the final chicane the same as my fast lap. So I always ended up a tenth down on my lap, and I was just thinking, oh no, this is really frustrating. And yeah, just to get demoted right at the last second by, I mean, milliseconds, shall we say, tenths, hundredths? It was milliseconds. Like it was such a small amount, and it was just so frustrating. I mean, Leon put in a lap that was never going to get contested, so. All I wanted to do was just like incrementally improve on that fast lap, just to try and get a bit closer, so it was a bit safer. But yeah, it was. I just couldn't do it, and I suppose that's when you get swallowed up by, you know, other people with opportunistic sort of lunges through chicanes or whatever to get the speed up, and they did whatever they needed to do to get that lap in, and you know, fair play to those guys. Yeah, I mean. Great for Luke in terms of where he qualified, and great that he had the pace to be right up there at the front. Unfortunate for him to have crashed out, but I think, you know, he can be proud of where he's got, you know, even if he does feel disappointed in what happened in the race. But yeah, it's just one of those circuits, isn't it? It's mental.
Oh, 100%. Like you say, it's a circuit which really does require everyone to really keep their head down all the way to the very end. And speaking at the start of your race, we did see you find yourself right in the thick of fighting with the relentless racing drivers of Leighton Austin, and also I do believe none other than Ashley Coulton right at the start. I mean, it looked so tight between you all in the opening couple of corners. And then suddenly you just got this nice open space to race in.
Yeah, they had a bit of a slip up behind. Which was nice. It gives you the sort of safety. I was chatting to Mark on comms, Mark Collicott, and he was saying, well, I got 6 seconds behind. I said, well, I got 3 seconds behind. I said, it's just nice because then you just sort of focus in front. And this is one of those circuits where you don't want to be looking behind you going into the chicane. You know, you don't want to be like focusing on anything other than your brake marker, your turning point, nailing the chicane, getting on the throttle. So it was nice in that regard. I think it would have been really just a horrid race if I was sat right up behind somebody, and Mark ended up like that. And he said every time he went through the chicane, he was just praying he just didn't get, you know, hit one of the sausages. So for him, it was a lot sweatier in that regard. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really know what happened necessarily, but I mean, I stuck to my game plan. I knew I was on the outside into T1, so I knew I just needed to take a wide line, take it nice and steady, because it's very slippy in the first 3 or 4 laps. The pressures really matter around that first sector, so you just got to be really on it in terms of, you know, what pace you can take at that point in a race, and just don't go too ambitious. And I think a few of them did, and that's where you see the spins, you see the people going wide. You know, they just don't have the grip like they expect. So I just sort of had that game plan. I'd practiced it over and over again, just to know where the grip was, and it paid off. So yeah, and then just don't die at the chicane. That was my plan. That was it. That was the whole hour. Don't die at the chicane. Just finish the race. And I was sort of sat there thinking, you know what? If I caught up to Luke, I wouldn't contest it, because he's not my class. I'm still second in class. Like, why bother risking the X's, risking an accident, risking damage? It's just no, just sit behind, and as long as I'm safe to the cars behind me, you know, it wouldn't have been a problem. And Luke's pace was brilliant, so it would have been fine. But yeah, wow. I mean, I still can't believe I actually finished first.
Oh, indeed, an absolute epic win. But I mean, whilst We did have the incident for Leon Seeley. Those last couple of laps, and you mentioned him only moments ago, Corey Price all over the back of you like a bad rash. He was getting closer and closer, but he did pick up a slowdown coming out of the final corner at the run to the finish line. Were you thinking to yourself, thank goodness for that slowdown, or did you think, no, I'm going to beat him naturally?
Oh, I saw he went in hot. Saw him, he went in really hot, and I was just like, oh God. It was another one of those races where, like Brands last week, where it's just like going into the final lap. It's like, oh no. I don't know. I just saw his pace and I saw how quickly he was catching, and I thought, as long as I nail my laps, I'll be all right. But then traffic, I was flashing as much as I could, as trying to be as like an early warning system to say, hey, I'm coming. Please get out of the way, please, please, please. But back markers has been generally good, to be honest. I'm not going to sort of criticise anybody. It's a tough track and it's always going to be tight, and there's not many places to move over, if I'm honest. But just I was just saying, I started to panic as soon as I passed Leon, because I was just like, oh no, I'm now in first and now Corey is right behind me. This is not a good position. This is the worst thing for me. I think I've said it in previous races. I just like calm, quiet races for an hour where I can just poot around and do my thing. Having that pressure from behind is horrid. But he did fantastic. I think he just needed 2 more laps. I think that's what Corey would have wanted as well. If he had 2 more laps, I think he would have had a good run at some point around the lap, and I would have defended. Why not? It's quite an easy one to defend that, but you would have had some side-by-sides to commentate on. I'm sure you would have loved that, but no, it all worked out in the end. I didn't know he had a slowdown, to be honest. I just thought, well, he's gone in hot, so he's had to slow down a little bit to make the corner, but yeah, no, it's all good.
Well, it's all top trumps for you today. A first win on the board. 4 rounds remain. Next time out, Suzuka Grand Prix circuit. Can you make it another win?
It's wet as well, is it?
Let me double check. I believe yes, we have rain on the cards.
Do you remember Sunday's GT3 league where I won quite well in the wet?
I do indeed.
Around Suzuka. We'll see. We'll see. I was in the Mustang and that was really good in the wet. The Corvette, not so much. But I don't know. I'm quite good at Suzuka. I don't want to blow my own trumpet. It's not what I'm doing. But I've had a good few rounds in not just this league but other leagues where I feel confident that I could probably put on a good result. But we'll see. Who knows? If it does rain, it is an absolute lottery, and it's another race of survival. So it'll be exciting to watch for all you viewers. So yeah, we'll see, won't we?
Oh, 100%. We'll definitely get to see in a week's time and see whether you can make it another win in the wet at Suzuka. But just before we do let you go, Richard, is there anyone you'd like to give a mention or a shout out to?
I'd like to shout out Mr. Collicott. He turned up with virtually no practice, joined in qualifying. He hadn't done any of a practice session before, and he got a 3rd in class. And I think he made up so many places in the race. So he's driven an absolute blinder. So yeah, well done to him.
Oh, well, Mark will definitely appreciate those shout-outs. Because like you say, you did a brilliant job to take an into podium as well, 3rd in class. But Richard, we'll leave it there for now. Congratulations, Dale, on taking your first win of the season. Well deserved. We look forward to seeing you back at Suzuka next week to see if you could make it a win streak. But until then, have a lovely evening. Rejoice and enjoy having that victory.
Cheers, Paul.
So hearing there, ladies and gentlemen, from Richard Simnor, a very happy Richard, no doubt about it, for DCW Racing Blue, and saying there about the fact that really today at Circuit Zolder it was all about to finish first you must finish, and talking about his thoughts of what happened with Leon Seeley and Alfred Kirsten in front, and having to make sure he avoided getting entangled in that when he came up to it, but also in the bigger picture as well. Once he was allowed to let the races settle down, he was able to really get his head down and make sure he could start to graft what would be the run-up spot as a minimum, if not chase down that win, although it looked as though it was always going to be in the hands of Leon until it was not. Conversely, in qualifying, looked very happy for 2nd place in qualifying until suddenly he was pipped to the post and demoted down to 4th place. Didn't have anything more he could put together in qualifying, so he had to do it all in the race, but he's definitely been rewarded for it, and given how well he's gone in the past in Suzuka in the wet conditions, will he in a week's time be able to make it another win there? And if so, could he announce himself in the title fight at this late stage? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But with that, ladies and gents, we've got more interviews to come. We'll be right back for interview number 2. And well, ladies and gentlemen, if we are going to speak to our winner overall in the Pro Class today, we're definitely going to continue the theme of staying in the Pro Class and coming to the man who finished second, because joining me now is none other than Corey Price. Corey, good evening to you. Well, what a day today. 14th in qualifying, but at the end of the day, second overall. I mean, you were right in the thick of the fighting every step of the way. You must be exhausted.
I wouldn't say I'm exhausted, but I'm just a bit gutted that I missed out on a win just by 3 tenths, but it is what it is. I'm happy enough to get P2, and I'll move on to next week.
All fair play. Now, I do have to ask, whilst you missed out by 3 tenths at the very end, do you feel as though qualifying perhaps cost you? And if so, what went wrong in qualifying?
So I was on track to get pole, and then a driver in the final corner misjudged where I was going, and I had a bit of an incident and caused me pole. But it is what it is. Like I said, it's part of racing. You know, you gotta battle through left and right, and hopefully it goes your way. If you know what I mean.
Oh, 100%. I mean, a lot of people do think that Circuit Zolder is one of those circuits that's near impossible to overtake at, but within the first 5 laps, you'd already gone from 14th all the way up to 6th place. Now, I suspect your perspective of the open lap was one whereby you had to try and weave your way through all the chaos.
Yes, I was very lucky at the start. I was very, very lucky. I threaded the needle through all the crashes and got a bit too scared at the start, and then I just relaxed a bit, and then I thought, why not? Let's just start pushing, and yeah, started pushing.
Now, with regards to pushing harder and harder, we saw you gradually getting closer and closer to those in front of you over the remainder of the opening stint. But it did look as though, particularly towards the end of the stint and going into the second stint, you just found a lot of pace that perhaps wasn't there in the first stint. Do you feel as though the car came alive the less fuel it had in it?
So, the start of the race, I was kind of saving my tyres in a way. I wasn't pushing, but I was pushing to an extent that I could catch up to the other cars in front. When it comes to the second stint, I just thought, yeah, I'm just going to push and hope for their best. At one point, I did think I was going to run out of fuel, so I started fuel saving. But around about 5 minutes after the race, I just decided to push and hope for the best.
Oh, fair play. I mean, you were pushing hard, and in the end, you're right on the back of Richardson going on to that final lap. I mean, did you know at that point, well, I presume you would have known at that point, you were battling for the win now. It wasn't for second place anymore because of Leon Seeley's demise.
Yes, I was very surprised. I think it was Luke and Leon. They've had both incidents, and I was like, oh, I'm in for a win here, so I'll pull flat, and I thought to myself, which was only 2 seconds ahead, and I was just decided to fully push and see where I came.
Well, you threw everything at it, but in the end, out of the final quarter, 3 tenths behind. But I get the feeling you're taking the logic, I'm either going to get it all in the final quarter, or I'm going to get a slow down and finish for second place.
Yeah, I overshot at the final corner and went too slow and exiting the corner, so I went all over the track limits and got a slow down. But yeah, like I said, I'm happy with the P2, and hopefully I could get a P1 next week.
Oh, well, that's definitely sound like fighting talk there. Suzuka in the wet. Is that a circuit you absolutely love in a set of conditions you love?
I'll be totally honest with you. I have not got Suzuka yet, so as soon as I get Suzuka, I'm straight away going to practice. So, yeah.
Oh, fair play. Plenty of practice ahead for yourself, but to be fair, we look forward to seeing how you can reward yourself with some brilliant action next week. But just before we do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to?
Yeah, thank you for InterRacing for taking part in this series. I do like this series a lot, and hopefully next time I'll be doing season 13. Is it season 13 next?
It will be.
Yeah, I'll hopefully be taking part in that. And to Leon and Luke, sorry for what happened to you two.
Well, I'm sure they'll appreciate your commiserations for them, Corey, but it's been an absolute blast having you join me in the interview. Congratulations, Day, on a superb second place finish. Perhaps next time it'll be the win, but until then, my friend, have a lovely rest of your evening.
Thank you. You too.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, for a very happy Corey Price, no doubt about it, the Inter Racing team driver. But we do have listed as Darkwing Racing. We may have to double check that, or whether there's been a team change midway through the day. Well, the pro driver absolutely flying high today, no doubt about it, and enjoying himself every step of the way. But talking about there the fact that he had a lap that was good enough for pole position in his opinion, but unfortunately did get caught out. A bit of an altercation with another driver right towards the end of qualifying, and so 14th was the best he could do. But when we went racing, managed to thread the needle through the open lap incident. And that propelled him a long way up the order, and while saving his tyres initially, we thought he might have been essentially balancing his pace, and in doing so well, in the second stint, and particularly in the final 20 minutes of the race, he really came alive and went all for it, and he just needed one more lap perhaps, corresponding to what Richard Simnor said in his interview, and he might have been able to bring home that maiden win. But still, he's been very close to it today. 3 tenths was the gap, and next time out at Suzuka circuit he does not own, he'll need to buy it and practice it. Can he finally land that first win? Well, if he does so, I'll tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, it would be a huge achievement. But Corey Price knows how tough the competition is, and he'll be getting his head down and getting to the grind to see where he can make the magic happen. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've got one more interview to come. We'll be right back for our final interview of the night. And so, ladies and gentlemen, joining me now in the interview room in the Interclass is our first time winner today. It is none other than Bobby Moss, who now joins me. Bobby, good evening to you. And well, second place finishes have been your forte this season. Here today, you decided to upgrade yourself on the podium to a win. I mean, you probably can't believe it's happened.
Finally, brother. Finally did it, eh? No, I couldn't believe it. 2 laps to go, I looked at the scoreboard there and seen Luke had disappeared, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna bottle this somewhere." But I managed to bring it home. Can't believe it. Got beer celebrating already. There's another one in the fridge ready. Buzzing.
Oh, brilliant. Well, you've definitely earned that beer. And in terms of how the day started, I mean, you were no slouch day, and for a good chunk of qualifying, you were on provisional pole in the Interclass. I mean, how did it feel for yourself? Because I think for the first 37 minutes or so, you're on pole by several tenths. And then suddenly, Luke van Gertel just delivers this monster lap for second place.
Yeah, mate, I was raging. I thought I'd put in a really good lap. Obviously, it was really, really close between the top 10, 15, 3-4 tenths between everybody. I thought I'd done enough, and then with 5 minutes left, I seen Luke could put it second, and I was them started pushing too hard on the quality laps. I'd get a good first sector 1, sector 2, sector 3, and then manage to off track it or something somewhere instead of just being relaxed. I'd be pushing too hard.
Well,
I think I ended up like 7th, 8th overall.
Oh, indeed. 7th overall it was, but in the end, whilst you may have tried pushing a bit too hard at the end of qualifying, in the race, it looked so it was a classic for yourself, just keeping it smooth and consistent. Was that always the plan, rather than trying to chase him down?
No, not really. I'm sure you'll come to it, but I messed up turn 1 and unfortunately hit Ash Copeland and caused a bit of carnage there. That gave me some front end damage, and I just had no pace really until I came into pit with about 15 minutes left. So I was trying to push as hard as I can, but I was just holding up all the boys behind. They all eventually got past me, one way or another. Normally I try and be quite calm, but I was really trying to push and chose the wrong opportunity to push really because I had a damaged car at the start.
Oh, fair play. And it was unfortunate what happens between yourself and Ash, but still, those things happen at such a tight circuit. But with regards to battling with the pro drivers trying to cover through, I mean, it looked as though you were battling uphill in a way, but was there a part of you, sort of one side saying, fight them because you want to hold those overall positions, and the other half of you saying, no, just let them go because you've got the wounded car?
Yeah, I didn't realise how wounded it was. So I was kind of torn whether to defend and just race, or let them through. But I mean, after 3 or 4 laps, I seen Luke just driving up the road and up the road. I was like, oh, I may as well just try and enjoy myself a little bit, trying to defend. But say eventually, these others were pros for a reason. I'll make one small mistake and then I'm down on speed because of the front end damage. So they're always going to get past eventually. But it was fun racing them all.
Oh, 100%. You look like you're having a lot of fun out there. And as we moved into the second stint, we saw you come into the pits and what was relatively late, like most of our drivers definitely on lap number 27. And after that, it looked straightforward. So in terms of towards the very end, until the surprise lead came into your hands, I think you dialed things down at that point, just thought, get it home.
Yeah, well, after taking the fast repair, I felt a lot faster. And yeah, at that point, I had I can't remember who it was, one of the pros behind me, and I was like eking out a bit of a gap to him. So I was like, oh, this will do. I'm going to finish second in class, and I don't know, P8, P8, P9 overall. And then just kind of started playing out in front of me, and I was just gaining like a place every other lap. And like I say, 2 laps to go. I looked at the scoreboard there. I was like, where's Luke? And then I kept like looking at the scoreboard instead of the road. Which isn't the wisest. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, a shock to the system, but in a way, a very positive shock to the system, you could say. So finally, that first win is on the board. Next up, Suzuka Grand Prix circuit, but with wet weather conditions. What can we expect from you there?
I have no idea. I don't really know Suzuka that well. I enjoy the wet, so it's a bit of a leveler for everybody. I do my best. I don't really know what to expect, which I'm sure everyone's the same. So with the weather, it makes it a bit harder. So as we've seen at Spa and Fuji, you and the best drivers end up spinning it round. So we'll see if I keep consistent again. Go back to my normal P2. I'd be very pleased.
Oh, fair play. Well, you're building momentum in the championship, and we look forward to seeing whether you can keep it building at the Suzuka circuit in a week's time. But just before we do let you go to enjoy that second beer, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to?
My wife and son, they're flying back from Japan right now. They're going to be home in about 6 hours. So big shout out to them. I'm sure the wife will enjoy watching this tomorrow night with me, or at least she'll say she will. And Marius Hibner from the Masters League, he very kindly built me a setup, which he didn't have to do obviously, but he just offered, which is very kind. And the TSRC boys for having me on board, and yourself obviously, Paul, as always.
Well, Bobby, we have to say a big thank you to you for joining me in the interview room to celebrate what's been that first Inter win. It's so good to see it come, and when we
finally, mate.
Oh, indeed. It's finally here, and we look forward to seeing whether you can make it 2 in a row next time out at Suzuka. But until then, my friend, have a lovely rest of your evening, and we'll see you again in the next round.
Let's go. Cheers, Paul. Bless you, mate. See you next week.
Catch you later. Oh, goodness me, ladies and gentlemen. Bobby Moss, well, he is a bit of a character, but you've got to love him. It's characters like him that definitely make you happy when you see someone land a huge result. And the SimRacing Collective Esports drive today in the 255. Well, what a result. But to be fair, and to him, talking about there, the duality of qualifying, putting such a strong lap together initially, being on pole for so long, and then suddenly seeing Luke van Goertel just deliver that second place overall time out of nowhere, and he immediately reacted. He wanted to see whether he could strike back, but he said there about the fact he was pushing too hard in the end, and in a way, you could say trying to qualify angrily to a degree, because he's trying to react to something that he can't necessarily control, but what he did try to control was the race, albeit an early incident between himself and Ash Coutland led to some damage to the car, and as a result it meant that he was battling uphill for the entirety of the opening stint. But after he got it repaired, the car was quicker, he was building pace, and then suddenly, with only a couple of laps to go, saw that Luke van Goertel was out of the race, and all he needed to do was get it home. doesn't know what to expect at Suzuka in a week's time. Indeed, nobody does, given the wet weather conditions that will prevail. But his target to the minimum, as he mentioned there, to make sure he stays very consistent and at least targets another second-place finish. But at the rate he's going right now, well, for Bobby Moss, this could be a championship with Jared Love not on the grid in this round, but expected to be back next week, where he's building a lot of momentum and he could be in the hunt for the title with only 4 rounds to go. But we'll have to wait and see whether that thing continues in Japan, where it's a brief moment of brilliance and the status quo's return next time. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for today. But just as we get ready to wrap up the broadcast, well, let's just give you a quick reminder of who we've spoken to. So in terms of our interviewees, we've only had 3 today, but we've had a brilliant time speaking to all 3 of them. We started off in the pro class for our first 2 interviewees. Number 1 was none other than DCW Racing Blues' Richard Simnor, the man who started 3rd in class but took his first win of the season after a late incident for Leon Seeley, the runaway leader, until unfortunately the race ran away from him. Then Corey Price in the 398 Darkwing Racing Pro Class car. He came into the interview room and talked about what was a bit of a difficult qualifying session, and in the end having to fight his way through the field to bring on home that 2nd place. And he enjoyed doing it, although at the same time as well, ruining the fact that he had the lap for pole position. Then we came to the interclass and spoke to the SimRacing Collective's Bobby Moss in the 255, his first win of the season, and very happy, in his own words, let's go, because of the fact he's finally made it happen, and looking forward to Suzuka in a week's time and continuing his run of form. A big congratulations to all 3 of our drivers for their brilliant performances today, all definitely deserved podium finishers, and in their own right enjoying some of their best drives of the season here at Circuit Zolder, and we look forward to seeing them out there, plus everyone else in a week's time, and to the prospect of even more interviews with our drivers. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, well, of course, it's now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know how you can get on the grid here at SimRacing International, well, the good news is it's quite easy to do so. All you need to do is go to our official Discord, invite link at the bottom of the screen, and when you do so, you can get on the grid on any one of the following currently running series. Of course, you've been tuning into today the Thursday evening GT3 Championship, and we do our 2 splits of Masters and Superstars, and you've been watching the Superstar split, and it's in like 12th season. Alternatively, if you like Grand Touring machines, but you want to go back in time and enjoy the Grand Touring endurance machines, the GTs, we've got you covered there in our Friday evening series, currently in its 2nd installment, running every Friday on a weekly basis. Or if you're still a big fan of GT3s but you do want to race them only on the weekend, we've got you covered there as well, because on Sunday evenings we do have the UK Sim Racing Sunday Showdown in its 18th edition, and well, the racing that could not be any more intense. It's crescendo. But alternatively, if you're looking for something far more casual and perhaps you're looking for something just to bring up, perhaps you're a rookie to league racing format, well, of course, we have three races per week in our practice league that does run on Tuesday evenings, Wednesday evenings and Saturday evenings. And the great news is, it means there's never been a better time to get on the grid at SimRacing International. Whether you're an esports professional all the way through to a rookie racer, there's a place for you here. But with that, we'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our series and league sponsors, who include Carmate, Mon Technology, the GP2 Group, and also Motorsport UK's esports division, for recognising us here at SimRacing International as a recommended community. We're very grateful for that recognition, and long may it continue throughout 2026 and beyond. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, it's time to look to next week and next round in round number 7 on Thursday the 14th of May 2026. At the midpoint of the 5th month of the year, we make our way to what for many might be considered to be a turning point for the season. It's the 3rd wet weather race of the season, and it'll be at the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit. And well, if one thing is certain about Suzuka, in the dry, it's got a little bit of everything. In the wet, anything goes at Suzuka, and it normally does. And in the pro class, with the absence of Milton Tomlinson-Dennis and Leon Seeley experiencing a major setback, this could be the time now where Richard Simnor is moving forward and getting ready to pounce for the lead, given the fact he's finally brought home that first win of the season. Meanwhile, in the interclass, well, we got to see today absolute brilliance up and down the field, but a first win for Bobby Moss is definitely going to put him on the map. But also Jared Love, 9 10 today, confirming Suzuka's a drop score, and therefore he'll be looking to be back to brilliance next time out. And as for the club class, Adam Lynch finally making himself a repeat winner. 2 wins in 6 rounds, but the club class is definitely very much alive, and he'll need to do his utmost to make sure he stays one step ahead of his peers as the rounds begin to run out. But come tune in live from Circuit Side for round number 7 on Thursday the 14th of May as we see how the story continues. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, you've been tuning in to the Thursday GT3 Championship Season 12, brought here at SimRacing International. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh of the Superstar Split, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. good night.